Hey guys, tonight we are going to drift back, way back. Before written words, before concrete cities, back to a time when the world was softer, quieter, and the night sky was a whole lot more crowded. I want you to imagine you are lying on a stretch of sand that has never felt the weight of a skyscraper. The air is thick and warm, smelling of salt and night-blooming jasmine. Above you, hanging in the deep velvety black, are not one but 7 brilliant moons. They bathe the world in a gentle, overlapping silver glow, and their combined pull makes the ocean breathe in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. It's a beautiful thought, but you probably wouldn't survive the prehistoric insects the size of your forearm. So maybe it's best we just visit in our imagination. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see where these stories land. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are lying on that very sand, warm and yielding beneath you. The day's heat still radiates from it, a comforting presence against your skin. Your village is quiet now, a collection of bamboo and nipa huts nestled just beyond the line of palm trees, their silhouettes dark against the luminous sky. Sleep doesn't come easily to you, not when the world is painted in such impossible shades of silver, pearl, and lavender. This is your world, a world lit by 7 sisters of the night. They aren't just points of light. Each has a personality, a unique character that your people have known for generations. There is the great Mother Moon, a vast creamy orb that hangs almost stationary, her face a tranquil map of soft gray seas. Flanking her are the twins, 2 smaller identical moons of a brilliant, almost aggressive white. They chase each other across the sky over the course of a week, a playful dance that governs the hunt for night fish. Then there's the shy one, a tiny moon that glows with a faint lavender hue, often hiding behind her larger sisters. The warrior moon is next, a scarred and pitted rock that shines with a cold, steely light. The 5th is the color of weak tea, a golden, watery moon that seems to weep light onto the ocean's surface. And finally, the 7th, the wanderer, a tiny, quick-moving moon that charts an unpredictable path, a silver minnow darting through the cosmic sea. Tonight all 7 are visible, a celestial family reunion. Their combined light is bright enough to read by, if your people had books. Instead, it's bright enough to weave by, to mend nets, to see the face of the person you're sharing a late-night roasted sweet potato with. It casts complex, shifting shadows as the moons move at their different paces. A palm frond's shadow might be a single, sharp line one moment, and a blurry 7-fingered hand the next. Your people have learned to navigate by this complex celestial clock. The most skilled sailors among you can cross vast stretches of open ocean, finding tiny, unseen islands just by reading the angles and phases of the 7 sisters. It's a skill born of necessity and deep intimacy with the sky. Historians still argue whether the first people to settle these islands arrived by a land bridge that has since sunk beneath the waves, or by daring open ocean voyages on simple rafts. Looking up at the sky, at this impossibly complex and reliable map, you feel certain your ancestors were sailors, guided here by the very lights you now watch. Life is dictated by the moons and the tides they command. A tide under the combined pull of the mother moon and the warrior is a powerful, dangerous thing, scouring the beaches and reshaping the shoreline. But when the gentle golden moon's tide comes in, it leaves behind pools filled with tiny edible crabs and shimmering shells. It's a rhythm you feel in your bones. You know, without thinking, which phase of which moon is best for planting, for harvesting, for asking a favor of the village elder. It makes modern scheduling apps look like child's play. Can you help me fix my roof next week? Well, that depends. Is it after the twin moons have passed their apex but before the lavender one rises? Because I'm busy then. Around you, the world is alive. The constant, gentle light means the line between diurnal and nocturnal is blurry. Flowers that, in another world, might only open for the sun, remain unfurled all through the night, their pale petals glowing. Small, furry creatures with enormous eyes scuttle through the undergrowth, their movements made bold by the lack of true darkness. The village healers have their own lunar traditions, of course. They collect certain herbs only when they are bathed in the light of the lavender moon, believing it imbues them with calming properties. They also make a rather questionable sunscreen from mangrove mud and fermented fish guts, which they swear works wonders. You're happy to risk the sunburn, thanks. Dinner tonight was, as it is most nights, a simple meal of grilled fish and boiled taro root, seasoned with sea salt. It's nourishing, it's familiar, and it connects you to the ocean that provides everything. You suspect there's a secret recipe for something a bit more exciting, but it's guarded more closely than the chief's ceremonial headdress. You close your eyes for a moment, just listening. The waves are a slow, steady shush against the shore. A night bird calls from the jungle, its cry a three-note question. From the village, you can hear the faint sound of a mother humming a lullaby to her child. It's a world of profound peace, of a deep and settled order. Everything has its place. Everything is as it has always been. You trace the outlines of the 7 moons with your eyes one by one, naming them silently to yourself. They are constants. They are the guardians of your world, the great lamps hung in the house of the sky. The very idea of one of them not being there is as unthinkable as the ocean suddenly becoming dry. The world is stable. It is eternal. You roll onto your side, the sand still warm, and feel a deep sense of contentment settle over you, as soft and as luminous as the light from the 7 sisters of the night. The next morning you wake to the familiar sounds of the village coming to life. The roosters, who have a deeply confusing relationship with the 7 moons and seem to crow whenever the mood strikes them, are making a racket. The soft scrape of a broom on hard-packed earth and the low murmur of voices exchanging morning greetings drift through the woven walls of your hut. The world, for all intents and purposes, is exactly as you left it last night. Peaceful, ordered, and bathed in the gentle pre-dawn light of the twin moons setting in the west. You go about your day. The tasks are simple and rhythmic. You walk the shoreline after the tide has receded, your eyes scanning for cowrie shells, which your people use for both decoration and a simple form of trade. You help mend a fishing net, your fingers moving in a pattern you learned before you could properly speak, the coarse fiber familiar against your skin. It's in the late afternoon, when the heat is at its peak and the golden moon has begun its ascent, that you feel it for the first time. You are standing knee-deep in the shallows, chasing after a small darting fish with a pointed spear. The water is crystal clear, the sun warming your back, and then it comes. It's not a sound, it's a feeling. A deep, resonant vibration that starts in the soles of your feet and travels up your legs into the core of your body. The water around you shivers, its surface momentarily blurring into 1,000 tiny ripples. The feeling is immense. A bass note played on an instrument the size of a mountain. It lasts for maybe 3 seconds and then it's gone. You straighten up, looking around. The fish you were hunting is gone, scared off by the vibration, but nothing else seems to have noticed. A flock of white birds still pecks for crustaceans further down the beach. 2 children are laughing as they chase the weak afternoon surf. The world is unchanged. You place a hand on your chest, feeling the phantom thrumming beneath your ribs. It felt ancient. In a land of volcanoes and shifting earth, tremors are not unknown. Your home is part of a great chain of islands known to occasionally shudder and groan. The Pacific Ring of Fire, a massive belt of tectonic activity, dictates much of life in this part of the world, a fact your descendants will map and study with scientific instruments. For you, it's just a known risk of living in paradise. But this was different. An earthquake is a violent, tearing shudder. This was a smooth, deep, almost musical hum. You dismiss it. A rock slide far out at sea, perhaps. A distant volcano clearing its throat. A few days pass. The memory of the vibration fades, becoming as unreal as a half-remembered dream. And then it happens again. This time, you are inside your hut, weaving a new sleeping mat from dried pandan leaves. The rumble comes up through the packed earth floor, through the bamboo stilts of the hut itself. A small clay pot on a shelf rattles softly, a dry, dusty sound. This time, it holds for a full 5 seconds before fading back into silence. It is undeniably real, and you are, once again, the only one who seems to notice. You try explaining it to one of the village elders as he sits polishing a ceremonial spearhead. You speak of the deep hum, the vibration that feels like it's coming from the very bottom of the ocean. He listens patiently, his weathered face unreadable before tapping his own chest. The world stretches as it ages, he says, his voice raspy. Sometimes its old bones creak. He has a whole taxonomy of creaks and groans, from the whispers of mischievous forest sprites to the grumblings of the great god of the local volcano. Academics still debate whether ancient deluge myths, found in cultures all over the world, are metaphorical tales of creation or fragmented memories of actual prehistoric floods caused by melting ice caps. The elder, however, is quite sure that the last big flood was because someone forgot to leave a perfectly ripe mango out for the river spirit. You try to explain the deep resonant feeling to your neighbor, and they just pat your shoulder sympathetically and suggest you lay off the fermented coconut milk for a while. It's frustrating. You feel like you've been let in on a secret, but you don't have the words to describe it. This feeling of being the sole observer is becoming familiar. You're either the most perceptive person in the village or the one who is slowly losing their mind. The jury, you feel, is still very much out. You start spending more time by the water, waiting. You learn to filter out the normal sounds and feelings of the ocean, the slap of waves, the pull of the undertow, the skittering of crabs. You are listening for something else, for that deep, abyssal hum. You learn its habits. It rarely comes when the sun is high. It prefers the transitional hours, dawn, and more frequently, dusk. It seems to happen most often during the highest tides, when the combined pull of the 7 moons draws the ocean into a great, deep breath. The connection feels significant. Other cultures had their own quirky ways of explaining the world's tremors. The Roman intellectual Pliny the Elder wrote that earthquakes were simply the world shrugging in its old age, a remarkably casual explanation for such a terrifying event. Your village elders seem to prefer the theory of a colossal crab shifting its weight beneath the island, which is somehow both more and less reassuring. Tonight you are sitting on a rocky outcrop as the last of the sun's light bleeds from the sky. The warrior moon and the mother moon are rising, their lights beginning to paint the sea in strokes of silver and steel. And then you feel it again, stronger this time. The rock you are sitting on buzzes with the energy of it. You place your palm flat against the stone, and you can feel the pulse, deep and slow. 1, 2, 3. It's not a random shudder. It's not the creaking of old bones. You close your eyes, concentrating, and you realize what it feels like. It feels like a heartbeat. A slow, impossibly large heartbeat, echoing up from a chasm of unimaginable depth. The peace you once felt so completely by this ocean is gone, replaced by a profound and unsettling curiosity. The world is not as quiet as you thought. Something is waking up. Or perhaps it has been awake all along, and you are only just now learning how to listen. For a week, the deep heartbeat is silent. The world settles back into its familiar rhythms and you begin to doubt yourself. The memory of the vibration softens, the sharp edges of your anxiety worn smooth by the routine of daily life. You start to believe the elder, the neighbor, the collective wisdom of the village. Perhaps it was just the earth stretching. Perhaps you had been sampling too much of that fermented coconut milk. You feel a bit foolish, like a child who was scared of a shadow that turned out to be a harmless branch swaying in the wind. The 7 moons continue their silent, majestic ballet, and you tell yourself that everything is fine. But you still find yourself watching the sky each night. A new habit you can't seem to shake. It's on the 8th night that your quiet, creeping dread is proven right. You are sitting on the same rocky outcrop watching the sea, now a comfortable ritual. The sky is clear, a perfect canvas of deep indigo. All 7 sisters are out, though the shy lavender moon is playing its favorite game, peeking out from behind the creamy expanse of the mother moon. And then you feel it, the heartbeat. It's back, and it's stronger than ever before. It's not just a tremor in the rock beneath you. It's a palpable pressure in the air, a vibration you feel in your teeth and your bones. It feels hungry. The vibration seems to rise from the waves, a column of unseen energy reaching for the heavens. Your eyes are locked on the lavender moon. As the vibration reaches a crescendo, you see it happen. It starts at the edge of the small, shy moon, a sliver of impossible blackness, sharp and precise. It is not a cloud. Clouds are soft, their edges frayed and uncertain. This is a line, a curve of perfect, light-devouring emptiness. It moves with a slow, deliberate pace, slicing across the pale lavender light. The darkness is absolute, a hole punched in the fabric of the cosmos. It doesn't obscure the moon. It erases it. Within a minute, the little lavender light is completely gone, consumed by this creeping, circular void. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the void is gone too, leaving behind nothing but the familiar dusting of distant, indifferent stars. The heartbeat in the deep fades to silence. You sit there, frozen, the warm night air suddenly feeling ice cold. You stare at the empty space where the shy sister used to be, your mind refusing to process what your eyes just saw. Of all the moons, it had to be that one. It feels less like a cosmic event, and more like it finally got overwhelmed at a party and decided to just go home without saying goodbye. The rest of the sky is still there. 6 moons still shine, but their light feels wrong. Colder. The gentle lavender undertone that always softened their collective glow is gone, and the remaining light seems harsher. The shadows it casts deeper and more menacing. The next morning, the village is abuzz with confusion. People notice the sky was different, darker. They gather in small groups, pointing upwards, talking in low, worried tones. You rush to the first group you see, your heart pounding. "You saw it?" you ask, a desperate hope in your voice. "The moon. It was..." An old fisherman squints at the sky. "Strange clouds last night," he says, nodding sagely. "Covered up the little one. A storm is coming, maybe." The woman next to him agrees. A bad omen. The sky gods are displeased. A cloud. They think it was a cloud. A perfectly round, moon-sized cloud that moved with the speed of a hunting bird and then vanished into thin air. Right, and here you were thinking the fish just jump into the nets out of a deep sense of civic duty. You try again with another group, explaining the impossible sharpness of the shadow, the way it swallowed the light. They look at you with a mixture of pity and concern. This is the challenge. Your people are practical. They understand the world through a lens of myth and experience that has served them for generations. An event that fits nowhere in that understanding is easier to ignore or reclassify than to accept. Anthropologists still debate how ancient peoples reconciled observable natural phenomena that contradicted their core mythologies. Did they adapt their myths, or simply find ways to ignore the evidence? Looking at the faces around you, you see the answer. They are choosing to ignore it. It's too terrifying to contemplate. It feels like you want to go to the village chief and file a missing celestial object report, but you suspect the paperwork would be a total nightmare. You have no proof, no way to record what you saw. The great civilizations of Mesopotamia, the Babylonians, meticulously etched their astronomical observations onto clay tablets, creating permanent records of eclipses and planetary movements that would last for millennia. You have only the frantic, unbelievable story tumbling from your lips and the hollow feeling in your gut. Many ancient cultures shared a deep-seated fear of such events. In ancient China, people believed a great celestial dragon was attempting to eat the sun during an eclipse, and they would bang pots, drums, and anything that could make noise to frighten the beast away. Here, there is no dragon, no identifiable monster to fight. There is only a quiet, terrifying absence and a village determined to pretend it isn't real. You retreat to the edge of the forest, slumping down with your back against a banyan tree, its aerial roots hanging around you like a protective curtain. You feel utterly alone, the sole witness to a cosmic crime. The rumble from the deep is gone, the perpetrator having retreated after its meal. But you know it will be back. The deep abyssal heart is quiet for now, but it is not gone. You look from the trees to the sea, Then up to the sky where 6 moons now hold a silent, mournful vigil. The world is less than it was yesterday, and only you seem to be aware of the terrible subtraction. Weeks turn into a month. The hole in the sky where the lavender moon used to be has become a simple, accepted fact of life. The village has, as villages do, moved on. A new story has been woven to explain the absence, a tale of the shy moon sister deciding to go on a long journey into the dark, promising to return when the world is quieter. It's a gentle story, a comforting one, and it neatly sands down the sharp, terrifying edges of the truth. You, however, cannot forget the creeping, devouring blackness. Your new nickname around the village is Stargazer, which you think is a bit unfair. You also watch shadows and listen to phantom heartbeats. You're a multi-talented eccentric, thank you very much. Your days have found a new rhythm, one dictated by a constant, low-level vigilance. You spend less time in the communal spaces of the village and more time at the edges, the tree line of the jungle, the high, wind-swept cliffs overlooking the sea. You are watching, listening, waiting. The deep rumble has remained silent since it took the lavender moon, and a part of you, a desperate, hopeful part, wonders if it is satisfied. If one moon was enough. But the larger part of you, the part that felt that hungry, rising power, knows it was only an appetizer. It's the middle of the day. The sun is a blistering white coin directly overhead, bleaching the color from the sky. It's the time of the king tide, a biannual event when the alignment of the 6 remaining moons and the sun exerts the strongest possible pull on the ocean. The water has swelled, rising far past its usual high water mark, glassy and still under the oppressive heat. The sea is so high and so clear that from your perch on the highest cliff, you can see the intricate geography of the reef below in impossible detail. It looks like a submerged, sleeping city of coral and rock. That's when you feel it. It's not the great world-shaking heartbeat from before. It's a fainter echo of it, a subtle thrumming that comes up through the cliff's stone into the soles of your feet. Your head snaps up, your eyes scanning the empty blue sky out of pure instinct. But the sun glares back, alone and unchallenged. The danger isn't up there. Not today. Your gaze drops back to the water, to the deep channel that cuts between your island's reef and the next. You hold your breath. And then you see it. It is a shadow. Your mind tries to rationalize it at first, to name it. A cloud passing over the sun, perhaps. But you tilt your head back. The sky is a flawless, uninterrupted dome of blue. This shadow is not coming from the sky. It is being cast from within the water itself. It emerges from the deep, dark blue of the open ocean and glides into the turquoise shallows over the channel's sandy floor. It is colossal. It is serpentine. It ripples. It flows, a living ribbon of darkness moving with an impossible, liquid grace. It is larger than the largest pod of whales you have ever seen, longer than the entire length of your village. You are seeing the silhouette of a creature so immense it has no right to exist. Cryptozoologists and mainstream scientists will one day argue about the possibility of large, undiscovered marine species. While most claims of sea monsters will be dismissed, the quiet admission will always be that the deep ocean remains the last truly unexplored frontier on the planet. You, however, are not debating a theory. You are watching the evidence glide serenely beneath you. The shadow of a vast reptilian head, a long, slender neck, and a body that coils and uncoils in a slow, hypnotic rhythm that seems to stretch on for an eternity. It takes a full minute for the entire length of the shadow to pass through the channel before it disappears back into the deep blue from which it came. You are paralyzed, a cold sweat breaking out on your skin despite the searing heat. Terror is part of it, a primal fear of a predator so vast it defies comprehension. But there is another feeling mixed in with it, a profound and ringing sense of validation. You are not crazy. The rumbles, the stolen moon, it was all real. It has a source, it has a shape. Well, that's one mystery solved. The rumbling isn't the Earth's indigestion. It's something big enough to give the Earth indigestion. That's progress? You think of the old maps you've seen from visiting traders, parchments showing the known islands surrounded by vast, empty oceans. In those empty spaces, the mapmakers would sometimes draw fanciful creatures. Krakens with grasping tentacles, great fish with jaws that could swallow a ship, and long, coiling sea serpents. Here be dragons. The most famous of those maps is rumored to say. You now understand that those weren't warnings. They were simple statements of fact. This creature, this shadow caster, it moves with a kind of sublime grace. There was nothing monstrous or clumsy about it. It was powerful, yes, but also elegant. Like a river flowing through the sea, this wasn't the thrashing of a mindless beast. It was the purposeful, confident movement of a creature that knows it has no equal, a creature that is the undisputed monarch of its domain. The world's museums will one day display the Fiji mermaid, a grotesque but popular hoax made by stitching the top half of a monkey to the back half of a fish. It was a testament to how badly people wanted to believe in the ocean's mysteries. You have seen something real, something far stranger and more magnificent than any taxidermied monstrosity, and you know with a sinking certainty that no one would ever believe you. You look down at the small, sharpened stick in your hand, a spear for catching fish no bigger than your foot. You look back at the empty water where a shadow the size of a mountain range just passed. The sheer, laughable inadequacy of it all almost makes you laugh. You would have better luck trying to tickle a volcano into submission. As the last trace of the deep thrum fades away, you are left alone on the cliff. The sea once again a placid, glittering sheet of turquoise, whispering its innocence to the shore. The secret is yours now, heavy and cold in your gut. You know the shape of the thief who stole the moon from the sky. The knowledge you now carry is a heavy stone in your gut. You live with the memory of that colossal shadow, and it colors everything. The gentle lapping of the waves on the shore no longer sounds like a lullaby. It sounds like the soft breathing of a predator at rest. You tried once to explain what you saw to the village chief. You spoke of the serpent shape, the impossible scale of it, the way it moved with a silent, ancient grace. He listened, his face a mask of stern patience, and then he told you that fear can make the eyes play tricks, and that perhaps you should spend more time helping to salt fish and less time staring at the sunlit water. You are the boy who cried sea monster. You have been dismissed. And so you wait. The silence from the deep stretches on, and the village, reassured by the continued calm, sinks back into the comfortable rhythms of life. The 5 remaining moons, the mother, the twins, the golden one, and the wanderer, continue their celestial dance in a sky that now feels unnervingly spacious. But you know it's a fragile piece. You feel like a person standing on a quiet, sun-drenched beach, watching the tide recede much, much farther than it ever should, knowing what the calm portends. The breaking point arrives on an otherwise ordinary evening. The day's work is done. The smell of cooking fires hangs in the air. Families are gathered outside their huts, talking and laughing in the communal space, their faces illuminated by the combined light of the 5 moons. Children are playing a familiar game of chase, their shrieks of joy echoing through the village. The warrior moon, scarred and bright, hangs high and proud in the center of the sky, a reassuring, steely presence. And then, the rumble begins. It's not the subtle, localized tremor that only you could feel. It is a deep, resonant shudder that rolls through the entire island. The ground vibrates not violently, but with an undeniable and pervasive power. Huts creak. A stack of coconuts tumbles to the ground with a series of dull thuds. The laughter and conversation die instantly, replaced by a wave of confused silence. Everyone is still, their heads cocked, their eyes wide with alarm. For the first time, the entire village feels the heartbeat of the abyss together. What was that? Someone whispers, their voice tight with fear. An earthquake? Another asks. But your eyes, and the eyes of everyone else, are drawn upward to the sky, and you all see it. The creeping, circular shadow, the perfect, impossible void. It manifests at the edge of the warrior moon, a sliver of absolute black against the pitted, silvery white surface. A collective gasp ripples through the village. No one is calling it a cloud this time. It is too precise, too deliberate, too utterly alien. It moves with the same inexorable slowness as before, a predator consuming its prey. Mothers snatch their children, pulling them close. The men who hold the title of warriors in your village reach for their spears, a useless, reflexive gesture against a foe they cannot possibly fight. Everyone is frozen, their faces upturned, watching in shared, silent horror as the light of the warrior moon is steadily, completely extinguished. The process takes a minute, an agonizingly long minute where the only sound is the frantic beating of 100 hearts. When the last sliver of steely light is gone, the void vanishes, leaving a gaping, star-flecked hole where a guardian of the night used to be. For a moment, there is a stunned, breathless silence. The world seems to hold its breath. And then the panic erupts. It's a messy, chaotic thing. People start shouting. A woman begins to wail, a high, thin sound of pure terror. The children, sensing the fear of their parents, begin to cry. The chief is yelling for calm, but his voice is drowned out by the rising tide of hysteria. It's amazing what it takes to get people's attention. A missing lavender moon is a statistical oddity. A missing warrior moon is a full-blown crisis. Apparently, the sky needs to lose its more masculine-coded celestial bodies before anyone takes it seriously. You stand apart from the chaos, a strange calm settling over you. It's not peace. It's the grim resignation of someone watching their worst fears come true. Suddenly, your stories about a giant shadow in the water don't seem so crazy. You've gone from village weirdo to terrifyingly prescient prophet in about 90 seconds. It's not the career advancement you were hoping for. People start to look at you, their eyes filled with a new kind of emotion. It's not pity anymore, it's fear. And a desperate, grasping hope. You knew. You tried to warn them. This kind of mass panic is not without precedent. In a city called Strasbourg in 1518, hundreds of people were seized by an uncontrollable urge to dance, a mass hysteria that only ended after many collapsed from pure exhaustion. Fear is a contagion, and it is spreading through your village like a wildfire. In the wake of inexplicable cosmic events, humans have always sought explanations. When a meteor flattened a forest in a place called Tunguska in 1908, the local Tungus people, lacking a scientific framework, attributed the devastation to the fiery wrath of their god, Ogdi. Your people, too, are scrambling for a narrative, for a god to blame or an omen to decipher. Sociologists and theologians will one day debate whether the prevalence of end-of-the-world narratives in human culture serves as a societal release valve for anxiety, or if it reflects a genuine, recurring fear of extinction. Tonight in your village, it's not a debate. It is a lived reality. The chief is shouting. The shaman is shaking a sacred rattle at the empty patch of sky. And one of your neighbors is frantically trying to barricade his prize-winning piglet inside his hut. It seems a giant sea serpent eats the moon scenario isn't covered in the standard emergency preparedness plan. The world is no longer a safe, predictable place. The sky, once a source of comfort and guidance, is now a source of terror. The abyss has a mouth and it is eating the lights, one by one. And you, the stargazer, the shadow watcher, are no longer on the outside looking in. You are standing right at the terrifying center of the storm. The night of the second vanishing is long and filled with a frantic, fearful energy. But your people are resilient. They have weathered typhoons that reshape the coastline and droughts that wither the crops. They have survived by finding patterns, by placating forces larger than themselves. And so, as the sun rises on a world with only 5 moons, the chaos of the night before begins to coalesce into a grim, unified purpose. The elders convene an emergency council at the center of the village. You watch from a distance, leaning against a palm tree, a silent observer to their desperate calculus. The chief, his face etched with worry, stands before the gathered people. Beside him, the shaman, adorned in a cloak of iridescent beetle wings and shells that rattle with every movement, stares into the middle distance as if reading an invisible script. After a long, dramatic silence, the shaman speaks. The voice is a low, chanting monotone declaring that the sky spirits are angry, the sea gods are insulted, a great imbalance has occurred. The diagnosis is vague, but the prescription is clear. The gods must be appeased. The shaman declares that the recent harvest was not shared generously enough with the spirit world, that the proper songs of gratitude were not sung. It's a classic move. When the primitive equivalent of technology fails, blame user error. When the entire cosmos starts to fall apart, blame humanity's poor attitude and a lack of sufficient thank you notes. The verdict ripples through the crowd, and a strange sense of relief follows. A reason, even a terrifying one, is better than the terrifying randomness they just witnessed. An angry god is an entity you can bargain with. A creeping, moon-eating void is not. Historians and evolutionary psychologists will one day debate the origins of religious belief itself. Was it a cognitive byproduct of a brain evolved to see agency and intention everywhere, or a social adaptation that promoted group cohesion in the face of hardship? Looking at your village, you see the theory in practice. The shared fear is being channeled into shared action, binding everyone together in a common cause. Preparations for the great offering begin immediately. It is to be the largest ceremony in living memory. The entire village is mobilized. The most skilled hunters are sent into the jungle for a wild boar, an animal prized for its strength and ferocity. The finest yams and taro are pulled from the earth, washed, and arranged in intricate patterns on woven banana leaves. Women bring out their most beautiful tapestries, woven from dyed pineapple fiber, their patterns telling the stories of your ancestors. Children are sent to the reef to gather rare, deep purple corals and shells with shimmering, mother-of-pearl interiors. You are swept up in the activity, tasked with gathering firewood. You work mechanically, your mind 1,000 miles away. You watch them prepare their gifts. They are offering the gods the best of the taro harvest, a beautifully polished conch shell, and the life of a magnificent forest creature. You were pretty sure a being that eats celestial bodies for a snack has moved past carbohydrates and has very little use for a seashell, however pretty it might be. The offering feels tragically, profoundly misdirected. You consider stepping forward, interrupting the chief's solemn instructions to say, "Excuse me, everyone, wonderful work, but I'm not sure the sky is the problem here." But you have a strong feeling that interrupting the preparations for a sacred ceremony with tales of a giant sea serpent is a great way to become the next offering. So you keep your silence, a heavy, bitter stone in your throat. As dusk approaches, the entire village gathers on the beach. A huge pyre of driftwood has been built, and great offering platforms of stone have been erected at the water's edge. The shaman lights the pyre, using a special, slow-burning incense that fills the air with a thick, sweet-smelling smoke. He begins to chant, a long, low incantation to the spirits of the sky, the sea, and the land. Drummers begin a slow, hypnotic rhythm that mimics the sound of a great heart. It's a chilling echo of the sound you alone have learned to fear. The shaman attempts a divination, tossing a handful of polished river stones into the fire and reading the cracks that appear as they heat. It's a form of pyromancy, a desperate attempt to communicate. Other cultures developed equally strange methods. Roman augurs practiced electriomancy, a bizarre ritual where a chicken would spell out prophecies by pecking at grains scattered across letters of the alphabet. You watch the shaman staring intently at the smoking stones and wonder if a chicken might be more reliable. The offerings are laid upon the altars. The great boar, adorned with garlands of flowers, is sacrificed, its life given in the hope of restoring balance. The act is solemn and sorrowful. The great Mesoamerican civilizations, like the Aztecs, believed that massive human sacrifices were a cosmic necessity, that the blood of mortals was required to fuel the sun and keep the universe in motion. Your people are not so violent, but the underlying belief is the same. A gift of life is required to correct a cosmic wrong. As the ceremony reaches its climax, the entire village joins the shaman's chant, their voices rising as one, a great wave of sound rolling across the beach and out over the dark water. It is a plea, a prayer, a desperate bargain sent up to the 5 remaining moons that hang above them like silent, judgmental eyes. And then, it is over. The drumming stops. The chanting fades. The fire begins to burn low, casting long, flickering shadows. Everyone stands in silence, their faces turned to the sky, waiting for a sign, a shooting star, a change in the wind, anything. But the sky remains empty and indifferent. The 5 moons shine down with their cold, diminished light. The sea whispers on the sand, unmoved. The offerings sit on their stone platforms, the smoke from the pyre curling into the silent, unanswering night. The collective hope of the village hangs in the air for a long, drawn-out moment before collapsing under its own weight. The gods have not answered, because the gods were never the ones who were listening. The failure of the great offering leaves a vacuum in its wake. The frantic energy of the ceremony is replaced by a heavy, stagnant quiet. Hope, having been summoned and sent out with the drums and chants, does not return. A cloud of quiet despair settles over the village. People go about their daily tasks with a joyless, mechanical efficiency. The laughter of children is muted, and the evening gatherings, once a time for stories and community, have ceased. Everyone now retreats into the perceived safety of their own huts as soon as the sun sets, casting fearful glances at the five-moon sky. The general mood has shifted from active panic to passive existential dread. It's a subtle distinction, mostly involving less shouting and more staring blankly at sweet potatoes. It's definitely not an improvement. You find the silence and the hushed fear more unnerving than the chaos. The nights are the worst. The world feels brittle, poised on the edge of another cataclysm. You take to spending the dark hours at your now familiar spot on the rocky outcrop, finding a strange comfort in facing the source of your fear directly. It is on one of these long, still nights that you hear it. At first, you think it's the wind, but the air is motionless, thick with humidity. The palm fronds are still. Then you think it might be the distant sound of reef waves, but the tide is low and the sea is as flat and calm as a sheet of obsidian glass. This is something else. It's a sound, not a vibration, and it carries over the water with an impossible clarity. It is a low, sonorous hum that rises and falls in long, melodic phrases. It is impossibly deep, a bass note that resonates not in your ears, but in the hollow of your chest. It is structured. It is a song. It is the most mournful sound you have ever heard. It speaks of an aching, bottomless sorrow, a loneliness so profound it seems to have the weight of the ocean itself. The song rises, holding a single, clear note of pure grief for what feels like an eternity, before slowly descending into a sighing murmur that fades into the deep. Then, after a long silence, it begins again. It is achingly, heartbreakingly beautiful. You are not the only one who hears it. The next day, there are whispers in the village. The fishermen who went out before dawn heard it. A couple who live at the very edge of the beach were kept awake by it all night. But their interpretation is filtered through the lens of their terror. They call it the wail of the sea ghosts, the lament of the drowned souls lost to the waves. They see it as another ill omen, the world itself weeping for the stolen moons. The shaman declares it is the sound of the insulted sea gods sharpening their spears of coral. You try to describe the sad beauty of the song to the chief, the structure and melody you heard within the sorrowful notes. He just grunts, waves a dismissive hand, and says it sounds like a bad wind caught in the cliffs. You're starting to think he might have a clinical case of spiritual musical anhedonia, a strange but real condition where the brain is simply unable to process the pleasure of music. But you know what you heard. Ethologists and philosophers will one day debate the extent to which non-human animals experience complex emotions like grief or loneliness. Is a whale's song a purely functional signal for navigation and mating, or can it be an expression of genuine, subjective sorrow? As you listen to the song from the deep night after night, you have no doubt. This is not a functional sound. This is the sound of a heartbreaking. Your understanding of the thing in the water begins to shift. The eater of moons, the great shadow, the source of the terrifying heartbeat, is weeping. The creature is not roaring in triumph or bellowing a challenge. It is singing a lament. In the late 20th century, your descendants will detect a mysterious, powerful, ultra-low frequency sound in the Pacific Ocean they will nickname the bloop. For years, its origin will be unknown, with many speculating that it must have been made by a truly colossal, undiscovered organic life form. You are living in the age of the real bloop, and you are realizing it's not the sound of a monster. It's the sound of a mourner. So the giant moon-eating sea serpent isn't a raging leviathan. It's a mopey musician playing the world's saddest song on the world's largest water-based instrument. This is getting complicated. You almost preferred it when you thought it was a simple, mindless beast that just wanted to destroy everything. A mindless beast is a problem you can try to solve with spears and shouts. What do you do with a creature that is powerful enough to swallow the sky, but sings with the sorrow of a lost child? You are no longer just afraid. The fear is still there, a cold, hard knot in your stomach, but it is now wrapped in a layer of something else, a deep and compelling curiosity. You find yourself drawn to the water's edge each night, not as a watchman scanning for a threat, but as an audience of one, listening to a tragic performance. The nature of the conflict has changed. The world is threatened not by a monster, but by a mystery, a vast, powerful, and profoundly unhappy mystery. And you are the only one who seems to be listening to its song. The sad song from the ocean becomes the new soundtrack to your nights. It is a constant, mournful presence, a nightly reminder of the great, sorrowful power that now governs your world. The village learns to live with it, the way one learns to live with the sound of a ceaseless, dreary rain. They incorporate it into their tapestry of fear, another thread in a pattern of omens and ill portents. You alone hear the emotion within it and are tormented by the question of its source. Life settles into a tense, watchful rhythm, a state of holding your breath. And then, inevitably, the breath is forced from you. It happens a few months after the warrior moon was taken. The deep, familiar rumble returns one evening, and the village doesn't even have time to panic. They simply freeze, a collective paralysis of grim expectation. Everyone's eyes turn skyward. This time, the victim is the golden moon, the one that wept soft, tea-colored light onto the waves. The circular void appears, performs its silent, horrifying surgery on the sky, and removes the gentle golden light from the world forever. This time, there's less screaming and more of a collective, heavy sigh, the sound of a people who are becoming accustomed to horror. It's starting to feel less like a cosmic apocalypse and more like a terrible subscription service you simply cannot cancel. And now there are only four moons left burning. The great mother moon, the two energetic twins, and the unpredictable wanderer. The loss of 3 of the 7 celestial lamps has changed your world in fundamental, undeniable ways. The nights are now truly, dangerously dark. Before, the overlapping light of the 7 sisters created a world of perpetual, silvery twilight. Now, there are hours each night when the remaining moons are all below the horizon, and the world is plunged into a profound, inky blackness your people have never before experienced. Fire, once used mainly for cooking and warmth, is now a vital tool for survival, and the flickering, uncertain light of torches and bonfires casts monstrous, dancing shadows that only amplify the fear. The natural world is in chaos. The tides, no longer governed by the complex and steady pull of 7 moons, have become weak and erratic. The fishermen, who could once read the ocean's moods with ancestral precision, now cast their nets into a sea that has become a stranger to them. Their catches are meager and unpredictable. The nocturnal food chain is being violently rewritten. Some creatures thrive in the new darkness. The rustles and growls from the jungle just beyond the tree line are deeper now, more frequent. It sounds like the entire predator department is holding a motivational conference every single night. Other creatures suffer. The sea turtles, who relied on the glow of the mother moon on the water to guide their hatchlings to the sea, now get confused, sending their young scuttling inland toward the village fires and their certain doom. Life in the village has contracted. The world has shrunk to the size of the firelight. No one ventures out alone after dusk. The old bonds of community are strained by the constant simmering anxiety. Tempers are short. Accusations fly. Despite a 0% success rate with his previous offerings, the shaman is now more confident than ever that he has identified the problem. His new theory, announced with great solemnity, involves an obscure freshwater clam spirit that is apparently upset about the village's recent basket-weaving techniques. His confidence is inspiring in a terrifyingly misguided sort of way. It's a perfect, if unwitting, demonstration of the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where the least competent people are the most certain of their own genius. Historians and archaeologists will one day debate the primary drivers of societal collapse. Was it environmental change, resource depletion, internal conflict, or a crisis of faith? Is a society's resilience determined by its physical infrastructure or by its collective psychological fortitude? You are watching the experiment play out in real time. Your village is being attacked on all fronts. Their environment has turned hostile. Their resources are dwindling, and their social fabric is fraying under the immense psychological strain. You feel caught between worlds. The elders of your village are experiencing a profound sense of loss. They remember the luminous nights of their youth, the world of 7 moons, and this new dark world is a pale, terrifying shadow of their memories. But the youngest children have no such memory. For them, a 4-moon sky is the only sky they have ever known. This is the phenomenon of the shifting baseline. Each new generation accepts the diminished world they are born into as normal. You are old enough to remember the light, but young enough to know you will have to survive in the coming dark. Each night, the great Serpent's song of sorrow rolls over the water, a constant, mournful counterpoint to the village's fear. It's the only thing that feels predictable anymore. You sit on your rock looking up at the 4 remaining lights. They seem smaller now, huddled together for comfort in the vast, empty darkness. They look lonely, and as you listen to the lament rising from the abyss, you start to wonder if that's the entire point. Perhaps the creature isn't hungry. Perhaps it's just trying to gather a family around itself, stealing the lights from the sky to populate its own deep, lonely darkness. The thought does little to comfort you. You are left staring up at the heavens, wondering how many more pieces of the sky can be stolen before the whole world simply breaks apart. The days following the disappearance of the golden moon are the darkest yet, both literally and figuratively. The village is gripped by a quiet, suffocating fear. The shaman's authority, already dented by the failure of the great offering, has all but crumbled. His theories about angry clam spirits are now met with sullen, empty stares. Desperation forces the hand of the elders. They decree that the shaman must undertake the ipasawom, the deep dive, a dangerous trance ritual reserved for only the most dire of circumstances. It is a journey into the spirit world from which not all shamans return. After the spectacular failure of the angry clam hypothesis, the shaman is under a lot of pressure to deliver. This time, he's breaking out the good stuff, the ceremonial-grade ritual aids. It's the spiritual equivalent of skipping the help desk and calling the CEO directly. For 3 days, he fasts, consuming only water. A special, small hut is consecrated at the very center of the village. You watch the preparations with a sense of dread and fascination. This feels different from the performative grandeur of the offering ceremony. This feels raw, dangerous, and deeply personal. On the 3rd night, the ritual begins. The whole village gathers in a silent circle around the hut. The shaman, looking gaunt and frail, drinks a murky, steaming brew prepared from a rare phosphorescent mushroom and the ground root of a vine that is said to dream. This is your people's version of the kaikion, the psychoactive potion used in the ancient Eleusinian mysteries to grant initiates profound and life-altering visions. He then enters the hut, and the flap is sealed. The drummers begin, a low, steady beat, not a call to celebration, but a rhythmic anchor meant to tether the shaman's soul to the world of the living, to give him a thread to follow home from the darkness. You stand in the crowd, the firelight flickering on the tense faces around you. As the drumming intensifies, you hear the serpent's song begin its nightly lament from the sea. In a strange, chilling synchronicity, the rhythm of the drum seems to align with the mournful cadence of the song, as if the village's ritual and the creature's sorrow are speaking the same language. From inside the hut you can hear the shaman's voice, a low moaning that occasionally rises into a sharp cry. He is on his journey. Like the Pythia, the priestess of the oracle at Delphi, who breathed in sweet-smelling vapors to channel the voice of a god, your shaman has opened his mind to whatever force is out there waiting to speak. The hours crawl by. The drumming is relentless, a physical presence in the night air. Then, just as the twin moons reach their zenith, a great, tearing scream erupts from the hut. It is a sound of absolute, undiluted terror and awe. The drumming stops instantly. A heavy, ringing silence falls over the village. The flap to the hut is thrown open, and the shaman stumbles out, his assistants rushing to catch him before he falls. He is pale as bone, his body trembling violently, his eyes wide and unfocused, staring at a vision that is still playing out behind his pupils. They help him to the center of the circle. He collapses to his knees, gasping for air like a man who has just surfaced from a deep, crushing ocean. The chief places a hand on his shoulder. "What did you see?" he asks, his voice tight. The shaman takes a long, shuddering breath, and when he finally speaks, his voice is a raw, broken whisper. He doesn't speak of angry gods or broken taboos or vengeful spirits. He speaks of a plunge, a fall into a cold, starless and infinite blackness. He says he felt, rather than saw, a presence there. "A heart," he rasps, his eyes locking onto yours for a brief, terrifying moment. A heart, vast as the sea itself. A murmur of confusion ripples through the crowd. The shaman shakes his head, struggling for words. "It was not anger I felt," he continues, his voice cracking. "Not malice. It was a sorrow, an unbearable sorrow, a loneliness so complete it was like a world without a sky." He trails off, lost in the memory, before whispering one final cryptic phrase. "It misses its sisters of light." The village was prepared for sacrifice 3 more goats, or you have been weaving your baskets with the wrong kind of leaf. They were not prepared for. The universe's biggest problem is a bad case of cosmic-scale depression. The shaman comes back not with a battle plan, but with a deeply emotional, abstract poem about a sad, giant heart. It is not particularly helpful from a practical standpoint. You can't exactly fight a feeling with a spear. Neurotheologians and anthropologists will one day debate whether mystical experiences are genuine windows into another reality, or are purely neurological phenomena, hallucinations generated by a brain under extreme influence. But as you look at the shaman's terror-stricken face, you have no doubt that what he experienced was, for him, completely real. And it confirms everything you have begun to suspect. The mournful song you hear each night is not a threat. It is a true expression of its singer's soul. You are no longer alone in your understanding. The shaman, through his terrifying ordeal, has heard the same song you have. The great enemy of your people has just been reframed. It is not a monster to be slain, but a figure of immense world-breaking tragedy. And the question that now hangs silently in the air is heavier than any before it. What can a handful of people on a tiny island do to heal a sorrow that is vast enough to swallow the moon? The shaman's vision hangs over the village like a thick, unmoving fog. The revelation that the source of their terror is not malice but sorrow has left everyone in a state of confused paralysis. An enemy can be fought. An angry god can be appeased. But what do you do with a grief that is big enough to unmake the sky? The village council meets, talks in circles for days, and ultimately arrives at a new official policy: strategic inaction. The current plan is to do nothing and hope the giant, grieving sea serpent eventually sorts out its emotional issues on its own. It's a bold strategy, born of sheer, unadulterated helplessness. Life continues, but it is a life lived in the shadow of a vast, cosmic melancholy. The mournful song from the deep is no longer just a terrifying omen. It is now a nightly broadcast of the very sorrow the shaman described. You listen to it with a new understanding, a strange and unsettling empathy. Your fear has been complicated by a feeling akin to pity. It is a deeply uncomfortable combination. You continue your solitary walks, finding solace in the rhythmic crash of the waves, a sound that feels honest and unchanging in a world where everything else has come undone. It is during one of these walks, in the quiet, lavender-gray light of early dawn, that you see it. The tide is at its lowest ebb, the wet sand stretching out like a vast empty slate. Near a gnarled mess of driftwood, something is catching the first rays of the sun. But it's not reflecting the light. It seems to be producing its own. A soft, internal, pulsing luminescence. Your heart gives a familiar, nervous thump against your ribs. You approach with caution, your bare feet silent on the damp sand. It is a single scale, but it is a scale of impossible proportions. It is larger than the woven buckler shields the village warriors carry, a great convex teardrop shape. Its surface is a swirling, milky universe of pearlescent color, shifting from rose to pale blue to softest green, with every change in the angle of the light. It is exquisitely beautiful. You find yourself thinking of ambergris, the mysterious, fragrant substance that sometimes washes ashore from the deep ocean. For centuries, people who found it had no idea it was a product of the great sperm whales. They simply accepted it as a precious, magical gift from the sea. This feels the same, an object of profound mystery and impossible origin. Hesitantly, you reach out and lay your palm against its surface. The fear you expect to feel doesn't come. The scale is not cold or slick or reptilian. It is smooth and impossibly warm, as if it has been lying in the sun for hours, though the day has only just begun. And then you feel it. A slow, gentle, rhythmic pulse beating up into your palm. It is not a heartbeat of flesh and blood, but a thrum of pure, resonant energy. The rhythm is slow, deep, and achingly familiar. It is the tempo of the Serpent's sad song. You are touching a piece of the creature itself, a fragment of the vast, lonely heart of the abyss. This is not a weapon, not a fang or a claw. It is a piece of its skin, its armor, and it is the most beautiful and gentle thing you have ever touched. It feels less like a scale and more like a solidified tear. Philosophers and cognitive scientists will one day be locked in debate over the hard problem of consciousness, why matter and energy should give rise to subjective, qualitative feelings at all. You, holding this warm, pulsing, and sorrowful object, feel the answer is simple. Consciousness is everywhere, and sometimes it is so powerful, so full of feeling, that it can be held in your hand. You look around. The beach is deserted. You find a giant, magical, glowing scale. On the one hand, this is terrifying physical proof of the moon-eating Leviathan. On the other hand, it is undeniably, breathtakingly pretty. Your priorities are becoming worryingly flexible. You know with absolute certainty that you cannot show this to the village. They would see it as an omen of death, a cursed object. They would try to destroy it or throw it back into the sea. They would not feel the warmth or the gentle pulse or the immense sadness it contains. They would only see their fear. Like an alchemist's fabled philosopher's stone, this object feels like a key, a catalyst that could transform the nature of your reality. It is a secret you must keep. Using all your strength, you lift the heavy scale. It is surprisingly dense. You wrap it in the coarse woven cloak from your shoulders, hiding its gentle light from the world. You carefully smuggle the giant, glowing shield scale back to your small hut, your mind racing. It's a bit difficult to hide. If anyone asks, you'll just have to tell them it is a new kind of experimental lamp you're working on. A very, very big and slightly emotional lamp. That night, you don't go out. You sit in the darkness of your own hut. The only light is the soft, pearlescent glow of the scale, which you have propped against the wall. Its warm, rhythmic pulse fills the small space, a silent, steady heartbeat in the dark. It casts a soft, shifting light on your face as you trace the swirling, galaxy-like patterns on its surface with your finger. You are no longer just a witness. You are now a keeper, a guardian of the first and only tangible piece of the great sorrow that haunts your world. You become the secret keeper of the luminous scale. By day, it is hidden beneath a pile of sleeping mats, its light and warmth contained. But each night, after the village has retreated into its fearful slumber, you bring it out. Its gentle, pearlescent glow is your only companion. You have started talking to it, whispering your fears into its warm, smooth surface. It feels less like talking to an object and more like talking to the lonely heart that shed it. The song from the deep continues its nightly lament, and as you hold the scale, you feel its pulse synchronize with the mournful melody, a quiet harmony of sorrow. The village remains in its state of helpless inertia, watching the sky, waiting. You are all living on the edge of a knife. The fall comes on a night that begins with a deceptive calm. The 4 remaining moons are high, a small, lonely family adrift in the vast blackness. The Serpent's song has been quiet for 2 nights, a silence that has filled the village with a fragile, terrifying hope. Perhaps it is over. Perhaps it is finally satisfied. Then the world begins to shudder. It is not the slow, deep heartbeat of before. It is a series of violent, frantic tremors, one after another, like the spasms of a creature in agony. The ground shakes, And this time, small cracks appear in the hard-packed earth of the village center, and the song returns. It is no longer a lament. It is a scream. A raw, discordant shriek of pure, unadulterated pain that rips through the night, a sound that feels like it could tear the stars from the sky. Your scale hidden in your hut begins to pulse violently. You rush inside to see it flare with a brilliant, almost blinding light, its warmth becoming an intense, near unbearable heat. It is resonating with the creature's sudden, overwhelming agony. Outside, your people are screaming. You stumble out of your hut and look up. The great dark void has appeared, but it is moving with a horrifying speed. It swoops upon the wanderer, the small, quick moon, and swallows it in an instant. Gone. Before the collective gasp of the village has even faded, the void reappears, larger now, and engulfs one of the twins. A moment later, it takes the other. It is a massacre. A frantic, desperate, horrifying purge of the heavens. The creature's new approach seems to be speed eating. It's a terrifying development in its culinary and cosmic habits. 3 moons, the last of the smaller sisters, are gone in less time than it takes to sing a single verse of a nursery rhyme. The world is plunged into an almost absolute darkness. The tremors cease. The agonized scream from the deep fades into a series of ragged, gasping sobs before falling silent. You are left in a world lit by a single, solitary point of light. The vast, creamy, and now utterly lonely Mother Moon. Her pale, silver light, once part of a symphony, is now a desolate solo. It is not enough. It cannot fill the immense, crushing darkness that now presses in on all sides. The loss feels absolute. Your people have lost more than just light. They have lost their calendar, their map, their nocturnal guides. It is a catastrophic loss of knowledge. A celestial burning of the great library of Alexandria, where the wisdom of generations was wiped out in a single tragic conflagration. The sky has a distinct going out of business feel to it. Everything has gone. The failure of the village's do nothing and hope it goes away strategy is no longer a topic for quiet debate. It is a catastrophic, undeniable fact. The council is obsolete. The shaman is silent, rocking back and forth in a state of shock. There is no plan. There is only the end. Cosmologists will one day theorize about a great filter, a hypothetical barrier so difficult to overcome that it prevents intelligent life from becoming interstellar. For your small island-bound people, this feels like that moment. You are facing a filter made of darkness and sorrow, and you are failing to pass through it. In Victorian London, a special railway line, the Necropolis Railway, was built for the sole purpose of transporting the dead and their mourners to a vast new cemetery outside the city. It was a piece of infrastructure built to process an overwhelming amount of grief. Your village has no such mechanism. You have no way to process this. The despair is total. You retreat into your hut. The scale is still glowing, but its frantic pulsing has slowed, replaced by a weak, fluttering beat. It feels exhausted. You pick it up, its surface still hot against your skin, and you feel the raw, ragged edges of the creature's pain. It was not an act of aggression. It was an act of desperation. A frantic, hopeless attempt to silence a pain so immense you can barely comprehend it. You look through the doorway of your hut at the single lonely moon, the last light left in a dying sky. It is beautiful. It is serene. And you know, with a certainty that chills you to the bone, that the creature will be coming for it next. The final act is about to begin. The time for listening, for watching, for waiting is over. In the aftermath of the sky's destruction, a profound and listless despair settles upon your village. The world is now lit by the single, serene Mother Moon, but her light brings no comfort. It only serves to illuminate the vast empty spaces where her sisters used to dance. The nights are a time of dread, a countdown to the inevitable moment when the final light will be extinguished. The Serpent's song has returned, no longer an agonized scream but a low, exhausted, and continuous moan of sorrow. It is the sound of a world winding down. It is in this atmosphere of quiet hopelessness that you feel a gentle tap on your shoulder. You turn to see the village's oldest woman, an elder so ancient her skin is like a map of 1,000 dried rivers. She is called Lola Apo, a name of deep respect, and she is considered less a person and more a living ancestor. She hasn't spoken a complete sentence in a decade, but her eyes are sharp and clear. She beckons you with one crooked finger to follow her. Her sense of dramatic timing is, you have to admit, impeccable. You follow her to her small dark hut at the edge of the village. The air inside is thick with the smell of medicinal herbs, wood smoke, and the dust of generations. She gestures for you to sit on a mat opposite her. For a long time, she simply looks at you, her gaze so intense it feels like she is reading the story of your life in your face. Then, in a voice as dry and soft as rustling leaves, she begins to speak. She tells you it is time for the whole story, the one that is not told to children, the one that is dangerous, because to understand the World Eater is to risk pitying it. Before the first man, she whispers, before the first bird, before the first grain of sand was born, there was only the deep, silent ocean, and in the deepest part of that ocean, a single vast egg of pearlescent light lay sleeping. When it hatched, the first and only thing of its kind was born, a creature of immense size and power, with scales that held the light of a dawn that had not yet happened. His name is Bakunawa. She tells a story of a being born into an existence of absolute solitude. For eons, Bakunawa swam through a silent, empty, and lightless world. Its own consciousness was the only thing in its universe. It is a perfect, if tragic, example of solipsism, the philosophical idea that your own mind is the only thing you can be sure exists. Then, as the world began to form, the sky was created, and with it, the 7 Sisters of Light. From the crushing blackness of the abyss, the elder says, her voice gaining a strange, poetic strength, Bakunawa looked up, and it saw them. 7 beautiful, brilliant lights dancing together in the great dark above. They were the first things it had ever seen that were as luminous and as beautiful as itself. And its heart, a heart as vast and as simple as the sea, conceived of a single, powerful idea: siblings. The full, heartbreaking tragedy of the situation unfolds in her quiet words. Bakunawa, with no concept of astronomy or physics, did not see celestial bodies of rock and dust. It saw a family. It saw 7 beautiful beings it believed were its kin, lost in the sky, and it was overwhelmed by a love and a longing so powerful, it shook the foundations of the world. Developmental psychologists will one day debate the core of attachment theory, questioning if the drive for connection is for survival, or if it is a fundamental need hardwired into all conscious life. Bakunawa is a mythic answer to that question. Its entire existence has become a quest to fulfill that one innate drive. Its first rumbles were its voice, the elder explains, calling to them to come home. When they did not answer, it began its long, slow journey to gently gather them, to bring its sisters down from the cold, empty sky and into the warm, quiet dark of its home, so it would never be alone again. So its grand plan was to redecorate its deep-sea trench with celestial bodies. It's the most ambitious and poorly thought-out home renovation project in the history of the universe. The story clicks into place, a final, terrible key turning in a lock. The shaman's vision of the sorrowful heart, the mournful, lonely song, the gentle warmth of the scale you keep hidden in your hut. It all makes a perfect, devastating sense. Its quest to build a family is the very thing destroying your world. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest stories, is about a hero's desperate quest to overcome death after losing his friend. Bakunawa is the hero of an even more primal epic, a quest to overcome loneliness. Finding out the world-ending Leviathan is just a lonely, overgrown serpent with a bad case of sibling envy doesn't make the situation any less terrifying, just more deeply, profoundly awkward. The elder finishes her tale, her breath coming in a shallow sigh. I tell you this, she whispers, fixing you with her ancient eyes, because the others listen only to the shaking of the earth and the screams of their own fear. But you have been listening to the serpent's song. You have been listening to its heart. The implication is clear. The knowledge and the responsibility that comes with it is now yours. You thank her. and step out of the dark hut into the pale, singular moonlight. The world feels different now, tilted on its axis. You look up at the last beautiful mother moon, and you no longer see just a light to be saved. You see the final, desperate hope of a lonely creature, and you see the last, precious piece of a world that is about to be broken forever. The elder's story settles not like a weight upon you, but like a compass needle finding north. The confusion and terror that have churned within you for months finally align into a single, terrifyingly clear point of direction. You understand now. You cannot fight a creature whose only sin is loneliness. You cannot kill a sorrow that is as old as the sea itself. To meet violence with violence would be like trying to stab the ocean with a spear. Pointless. The only path forward, the only path that is not a direct route to utter annihilation, is to try to speak the serpent's language, to answer its song of sorrow with one of understanding. This revelation leads you to a decision that feels both insane and completely inevitable. You must go out to it. You must meet it in its own domain. In the space of a few weeks, you be gone from village eccentric to lead mythic creature psychologist, and now apparently designated ambassador to the abyss. The pay is terrible, but the job security is extremely uncertain. You go before the village. They are gathered in the central clearing, a collection of hollow-eyed, despairing people simply waiting for the end. You stand before them, and for the first time, you bring out the luminous scale. As you unwrap it, a soft, pearlescent glow illuminates the shocked faces around you, and a collective gasp ripples through the crowd. You tell them everything. You tell them the shaman's vision was true. You tell them the elder's story. You tell them the creature, Bakunawa, is not a monster to be fought, but a lonely heart to be soothed. Then you tell them your plan, to sail out into the middle of the ocean and try to have a heart-to-heart with a creature that eats planets. You expect them to call you mad. Instead, they stare at the warm, pulsing light of the scale in your hands, and they see the truth. Everyone agrees that your plan is perfectly reasonable, which tells you just how far past desperate the village has gone. Their paralysis breaks, replaced by a final, frantic surge of purpose. Biologists and sociologists will one day debate whether altruism is a purely learned behavior, or if a capacity for selfless cooperation, even at great personal risk, is an evolutionary trait that helps groups survive existential threats. This is your answer. In the face of extinction, your village chooses to rally around one single, impossibly fragile hope. They agree to build you a boat, not just any boat, a vessel for a sacred, desperate mission. The finest boat builders in the village, men who learned their craft from their fathers, select the perfect tree, an ancient ironwood, tall and straight, believed to hold the spirit of the forest within it. The sound of their adzes striking wood is the first hopeful sound the village has heard in months. The canoe is shaped with reverence, its lines sleek and swift, designed to cut through the water like a flying fish. This is the same technology, the outrigger canoe, that allowed your ancestors to undertake one of the most incredible migrations in human history, the Great Austronesian Expansion, spreading them across the vast unknown oceans of the Pacific. Your journey will not be across a physical ocean, but a mythological one. You have an idea. You ask the children to gather the most luminous pearlescent seashells from the reef. You and the other women spend days grinding these shells into a fine, shimmering powder. You mix this powder with clear tree sap, creating a thick, glowing paint. Under the solitary, watchful eye of the last moon, you paint the entire canoe. It shimmers with a soft, internal light, a perfect echo of the scale you keep by your side. You're painting the canoe with glittery shell dust with the hope of looking non-threatening. At the very least, if you do get eaten, you'll be the most fabulously decorated meal the Serpent has had all week. When the boat is finished, the shaman, now a humbled and quiet man, comes to give his blessing. His new ritual is nothing like the ones before. There are no demands, no offerings. He anoints the bow of the canoe with coconut oil and burns a bundle of sweet grass, letting the smoke wash over the luminous hull. His chant is a soft, melodic plea not for victory, but for safe passage, for empathy, for a bridge to be built between the world of the land and the heart of the sea. He asks the spirits to wreath the boat in a protective light, a spiritual version of the strange, glowing plasma sailors called St. Elmo's fire, which they believed was a sign of a ship being under divine protection. Finally, it is done. The boat rests on the sand, waiting. It seems to have a life of its own, drinking in the pale light of the mother moon and breathing it back out in a soft, pearlescent glow. It is a boat made of moonlight and hope. You stand beside it, the scale wrapped in cloth and tied to your waist, its warmth a comforting presence. The entire village is there with you, a silent crowd on the shoreline. Their fear is still present, a palpable thing in the cool night air, but it is now mingled with a tiny, fragile spark of something more. You are their ambassador, their last prayer, the keeper of that spark. And you are about to carry it out into the vast, lonely darkness of the sea. You push the luminous canoe into the gentle surf. There are no tearful goodbyes, no shouted words of encouragement from the shore. Your entire village simply stands on the beach, 100 silent silhouettes against the firelight, watching you go. Their hopes and their fears are a tangible weight on your back as you paddle out beyond the reef, into the deep dark water under the lonely gaze of the last moon. Once you are in the open ocean, you put down your paddle. You will not be navigating by sight. You are, after all, sailing into the deep ocean, guided by the vibes of a magical lizard scale. Your ancestors, who crossed the vast Pacific using complex and brilliant star charts, would be either very proud of your ingenuity or deeply concerned for your sanity. Probably the latter. You close your eyes. You place one hand on the warm, pulsing scale tied at your waist, and the other flat against the shimmering hull of the boat. You tune out the sound of the waves and listen instead for the deep, mournful song of Bakunawa. It is clearer out here, a low, resonant note that seems to come from all directions at once. You focus on the pulse from the scale, the familiar thrumming rhythm. You feel it pulling, a gentle but insistent tug in a specific direction. You open your eyes, pick up your paddle, and begin to follow its lead. For what feels like an entire day and night, you paddle. The single moon traces its slow arc across the sky and sinks below the horizon, leaving you in a darkness deeper than any you have ever known. But your boat provides its own light, a soft, pearlescent glow on the black water, and the scale is a warm, unwavering compass against your skin. The song grows louder, the pulse stronger, you're getting closer. You arrive at a place where the ocean itself feels different. The surface of the water, which should be rolling with deep ocean swells, is unnaturally calm, almost glassy. And in the center of this calm, the water begins to move. It is not the violent, ship-devouring maelstrom of sailors' nightmares. It is a slow, wide, and almost gentle vortex, a liquid spiral staircase descending into the abyss. This is the path. As your canoe reaches the edge of the whirlpool, you brace yourself. But the shaman's blessing holds true. The boat isn't torn apart. It is caught in the current and drawn smoothly into the descending spiral. You make a mental note to leave the shaman a 5-star review for his magical protection services, assuming you survive. You are pulled down, deep, deep under the waves. A shimmering bubble of air and light, a gift of the blessing, forms around you and your canoe, keeping the crushing pressure of the deep ocean at bay. Outside this bubble, the world is a swirl of black water. You are descending into a realm of eternal night, a place like the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the world's oceans, where the pressure is over 1,000 times that of the surface. A place once thought to be completely devoid of life. But as you sink deeper, you see that it is not empty at all. Points of light begin to appear in the darkness outside your bubble. Strange, beautiful, bioluminescent creatures of the abyss, drifting past like fallen stars. The spiraling tunnel of water finally opens up, and your boat drifts out into a vast subterranean cavern. You are no longer underwater. You are in a grotto so immense that you cannot see the ceiling or the far walls. You are breathing cool, clean, damp air, and the entire cavern is alive with light. The floor and walls are a breathtaking garden of bioluminescent life. Great forests of what look like sea anemones wave gently, their tendrils glowing with a soft blue light. Corals pulse in slow, rhythmic waves of pink and green. Strands of glowing moss like 1,000 strings of tiny lanterns hang from unseen ledges. It is a silent, magical, and living landscape, like an entire world made of the strange, beautiful foxfire that sometimes glows in rotting wood. You drift forward, speechless with awe, and then you look up, and you see them. Floating serenely in the vast dark space above you are the 6 lost moons. They are not broken or dimmed. They are whole, perfect, and contained, each one shedding its familiar, beloved light. The shy lavender moon, the scarred warrior, the weeping golden one, the wanderer, the 2 bright twins. They drift in a slow, gentle orbit, filling the immense cavern with their combined light, a ghostly and beautiful twilight. Bakunawa did not devour them. It collected them. It brought them home. The place is decorated with 6 captive moons and a lot of glowing plants. It's a very specific interior design aesthetic. You'd call it melancholy cosmic chic. Evolutionary biologists will one day debate if a sense of beauty is a uniquely human trait, or if an appreciation for pattern and light can exist in other minds. As you gaze upon this perfectly curated, heartbreakingly beautiful collection of stolen light, you know that Bakunawa is not just a collector, it is an artist, and its medium is sorrow. You have reached its lair, but it is not a lair. It is a sanctuary, a museum built to celebrate a family that never was. The sad song is all around you now, its source nearby, echoing softly off the glowing coral. You have reached the very heart of the abyss, and now you can only wait. You drift in the silent, luminous grotto, your small glowing boat a tiny island in a sea of impossible beauty. The sad song is no longer distant. It is the very air you breathe, a resonant hum that vibrates in your bones. You have arrived. And the host of this underwater cathedral is about to make its appearance. He's larger than you were expecting, and definitely not what you'd call a people person, given that he has in all likelihood never met one before. You are about to make a very strange first impression on behalf of the entire human race. From a chasm in the grotto floor, a trench so deep it seems to be a wound in the world itself, a shape begins to rise. It is not the sudden, terrifying emergence of a monster. It is a slow, impossibly graceful ascent. A colossal head, broader than your entire village, rises from the depths. Its scales are the color of moonlight on water, shimmering with the same pearlescent glow as the one you carry. Great, silken fins, like the sails of a ghostly ship, undulate gently at its sides. It is ancient, magnificent, and suffused with a sadness so profound it makes the cavern's mournful beauty seem cheerful by comparison. The great serpent, Bakunawa, lifts its head from the water before you, and its eyes, each one a swirling nebula of soft silver light, meet yours. They are not the cold, unblinking eyes of a reptile. They are deep, intelligent, and they hold the weight of a loneliness that has lasted for eons. The moment your gaze locks with its, the world dissolves. You are no longer in your boat. You are no longer you. You are plunged into the silent, cold, and absolute blackness of its birth. You feel the eons of solitude, a crushing, sensory-deprived emptiness that would have driven any human mind to madness in moments. It is a loneliness so pure and fundamental, it has no opposite. Then, you see the sky. Through its eyes, you witness the birth of the 7 moons, a sudden, miraculous explosion of light and beauty in a universe that had only ever contained a single consciousness. You feel the love that blooms in its heart, a pure, innocent, and possessive love, the love of a being that has just discovered that alone is not the only way to be. You are now having a silent, telepathic, and emotionally devastating conversation with a sea serpent the size of a mountain range. This is by far the most intense and least fun party you have ever attended. As it shares its story of solitude and longing, you find that you can share in return. You don't send words, you send feelings. You send the memory of the sun's warmth on your skin. You send the sound of children laughing as they play in the surf. You send the image of the elder's wise, wrinkled face and the shaman's terror-stricken eyes after his vision. You show it the village, working together to build your small boat, their faces illuminated by fire and a single desperate hope. You are giving Bakunawa a crash course in empathy, a concept a creature born into solitude could never invent on its own. Cognitive scientists will one day debate if animals possess a theory of mind, and the ability to understand that others have beliefs and perspectives different from one's own. In this moment, you are gifting that theory to a mind as vast as the ocean. You show it the world it has been breaking. From your mind, it sees its home not as a ceiling of water, but as the floor of another world. A world filled with countless other small, warm, and fragile lives, all dependent on the lights it has been taking. The astronaut Carl Sagan would one day describe a photograph of Earth from deep space as a pale blue dot, a perspective that revealed the profound unity and fragility of our world. You are giving Bakunawa its own pale blue dot moment. Another phenomenon, the overview effect, describes the cognitive shift astronauts feel when seeing Earth from orbit. A sudden awareness of it as a tiny shared home. You are the conduit for Bakunawa's overview effect, and you can feel the moment it understands. The simple childlike logic of its quest to gather its family collides with the terrible complex truth of the consequences. Its vast consciousness is flooded with the cosmic equivalent of an oh no moment, the kind you get when you realize you've accidentally shattered a precious family heirloom you were only trying to polish. Only in this case, the heirloom is an entire ecosystem. The connection breaks. You are slammed back into your own senses, gasping, emotionally exhausted, your face wet with tears you don't remember crying. You are in your boat. Before you, Bakunawa floats, its colossal head bowed slightly, its great silver eyes blinking with a slow dawning horror, and a grief that is now deeper and more complex than simple loneliness. For the first time since you left the shore, the mournful song is silent. The abyss is utterly quiet. It is a silence not of emptiness but of a shared, world-altering understanding. The conversation is over. The silence that fills the grotto is profound. The mournful song has ended, leaving a void that is heavier than any sound. Bakunawa floats before you, its vast head still bowed in the aftermath of your silent, shared understanding. For a creature that has only ever known solitude, the sudden crushing weight of another S perspective, of an entire world S perspective, is a burden you can see settling upon it. The giant sea serpent, having just had its entire worldview shattered, decides the next logical step is to show you its insides. It's a bold and frankly very vulnerable move. You've never felt closer to a mythological creature, in a very literal, I can see its internal organs kind of way. Slowly, deliberately, it begins to move. It uncoils its immense body from the deep chasm below, its full, impossible length filling the cavern. It is a living mountain range, a river of moonlight and muscle. It brings a section of its torso closer to your small boat, a gesture of immense trust. The pearlescent scales that cover its body ripple, and then, something miraculous happens. The skin beneath them begins to glow, the scales becoming transparent, turning the creature's side into a vast, living window of soft, luminous light. It is inviting you to look inside, to see the truth for yourself. You lean forward, your hands gripping the sides of your glowing canoe, and you peer through this portal into its very being. And you see them. The 6 lost moons. They are not being digested. They are not broken or burning. They are floating peacefully in a vast internal chamber, each suspended in a shimmering amniotic bubble of light. They drift in a slow, gentle ballet, like cosmic pearls held safely within the universe's largest and saddest oyster. The soft lavender light of the shy sister, the cold, steely glint of the warrior, the warm, tear-like glow of the golden one, the bright, quicksilver flicker of the wanderer, and the steady, brilliant shine of the 2 twins. They are all there, perfectly preserved, each one radiating its own signature energy. So, the moons aren't destroyed. They're being kept in a kind of magical, internal terrarium. This is good news mostly. The bad news is that the only path to restoring them is through an agreement with the keeper of the terrarium. In the 20th century, scientists would be stunned by the discovery of a living coelacanth, a type of fish they believed had gone extinct 66 million years ago. It was a living fossil from a lost world. That is what you are looking at now. 6 living fossils, perfectly preserved pieces of a world that no longer exists, held in a place they were never meant to be. The site confirms everything. Bakunawa never sought to destroy the moons, only to possess them. It gathered them into the only safe place it knew, the only home it could offer, itself. It was an act of profound, if catastrophically misguided love. This was not a devouring, it was an embrace. Conservationists and ethicists will one day argue over the principles of compassionate conservation, debating if it is right to prioritize the well-being of an individual creature over the balance of its entire ecosystem. Bakunawa, in its cosmic loneliness, has made itself the ultimate compassionate conservationist, preserving the objects of its affection at the cost of the entire world. The philosophical paradox of the ship of Theseus asks if an object that has had all of its parts replaced is still the same object. You look at the moons, held in this conscious, sorrowful stasis, and you wonder the same thing. If they are returned to the sky, will they be the same sisters of light your people once knew? Or has their time spent inside this ancient, lonely mine changed them forever? Okay, so the moons are physically retrievable. The problem is no longer one of conquest, but of negotiation. You now have to figure out how to convince a being the size of an island to undergo a voluntary 6-part cosmic regurgitation process, while also simultaneously treating its deep-seated, eons-old abandonment issues. Simple. You tear your gaze away from the incredible sight and look back at Bakunawa's vast, sorrowful eye. It is watching you, waiting. It has shown you its secret, its shame, and its love. It has made itself completely vulnerable to you. The sight of the moons, safe and whole, fills you with a surge of hope. A solution is possible, but as you look into that ancient, lonely eye, you are struck by a new and terrible understanding. Simply taking the moons back, even if it were to allow it, would be an act of unspeakable cruelty. It would mean taking the only family it has ever known, leaving it more alone and more broken than it was at the dawn of time. The mission has changed. This cannot be a rescue. It must be a bargain. The vision of the 6 captive moons hangs behind your eyes, a beautiful and tragic secret. The translucent window into Bakunawa's soul fades, its skin once again becoming an impenetrable wall of shimmering, pearlescent scales. But the silent, shared understanding remains. You are now negotiating a cosmic hostage situation with a telepathic sea serpent. This particular scenario was not covered in any of the village's coming-of-age rituals. You're having to improvise your interspecies diplomacy on the fly. You know what you must do. You look at its vast, ancient eye, and you initiate the connection once more, reaching out not with fear but with a proposition. You send the feeling of the bargain. First, you project the image of the 6 moons, your shared secret being released. You show them rising from the deep, leaving the grotto and returning to their rightful places in the night sky. As you send this, you feel a wave of pure, soul-tearing agony from Bakunawa. It is the grief of a parent losing their children, a pain so absolute it almost severs your connection. This is the price. Before the feeling can overwhelm you both, you counter it with a new vision. You show it your village. You show it the small, warm, fragile people of the surface. You show it their hands, weaving, carving, polishing shells. You project the feeling of creation, of a gift being made not out of duty but out of a shared understanding. You show them gathering the softest lights of the land, the flicker of fireflies, the glow of phosphorescent fungi, the shimmer of 1,000 polished shells. You project the idea of them weaving these lights together into a new shape, a new star, a companion born not of the cold, distant cosmos but of the warm, living earth. A gift made specifically for it, a friend that would never leave. You are trying to create a Rosetta Stone of emotion, a single, tangible object to translate the concept of companionship between 2 beings who share absolutely nothing but a capacity for sorrow. The bargain is laid out in this silent, emotional language. Spare the last moon. Give us time to make you this gift, a companion freely given, in exchange for the family you have taken. You feel Bakunawa's ancient, powerful mind consider this. It is an impossible choice. Game theorists will one day call this the prisoner's dilemma, a scenario where two parties must choose whether to trust each other for a greater good or betray each other for immediate selfish gain. Your bargain is the ultimate high-stakes version of this, the surface world and the abyss choosing cooperation over mutual destruction. You feel the titanic struggle within its consciousness, the primal, possessive love for the moons it holds, versus the terrifying yet profoundly tempting new feeling of hope. The hope of a connection that is offered, not taken. You've just promised to build a new, bespoke star for a lonely Leviathan. You have absolutely no idea how you are going to do this. You're starting to understand the immense pressure felt by freelance artists dealing with a very, very large and emotionally volatile client. The peoples of the Trobriand Islands in the South Pacific would one day practice the Kula Ring, a ceremonial exchange of shell necklaces and armbands across a vast network of islands. These objects had little material value, but were immensely powerful, for they created relationships, prestige, and mutual obligation. They were a physical manifestation of trust. The companion you are promising is the ultimate Kula gift, an object intended to forge a bond between the sky and the sea. After an eternity of silent deliberation, you feel the answer. It is not a thought, but a deep, resonant hum that vibrates through the water, through the hull of your boat, and into the very core of your being. It is a hum of agreement, a hum of fragile, sorrowful, and world-changing trust. The deal is struck. Bakunawa will spare the final moon. It will wait. It will give your world a chance. With the bargain sealed, the great serpent moves. It dips its colossal head in a slow, solemn gesture that you understand as a farewell. Then with a silent, graceful power, it sinks back into the inky blackness of the chasm from which it came, its own light fading until it is gone. You are left alone in the vast, silent grotto. The 6 moons still float serenely above you, a reminder of the stakes. You have what you came for. You have a chance to save your world. But the price is a promise so grand, so audacious, it seems impossible to fulfill. Now all you have to do is go home and convince your village to invent magical engineering. No problem. You pick up your paddle, turn your shimmering boat around, and begin to search for the spiraling current that will carry you back to the surface. Your mind already racing. The weight of your impossible promise heavier than any mountain. The journey back from the abyss is the reverse of your descent. A slow, spiraling ascent from the world of dreams back into the world of salt water and air. You break the surface under the pale, solitary light of the mother moon. You are unchanged. Your boat is unharmed. But you carry within you the weight of a promise that could either save the world or shatter its last fragile hope. Your arrival is a miracle. A fisherman casting his net in the pre-dawn gloom is the first to see it. A single, glowing light on the horizon, where no light should be. The alarm is raised, not with a cry of fear, but of disbelief. The entire village gathers on the shore as your shimmering, moon-painted canoe glides silently onto the sand. They had sent you to your death, a final, desperate prayer, and you have returned. You gather them in the village clearing as the sun rises, and you give your report. Good news, you might as well have said. The moons are mostly fine. Bad news. They are currently being held inside a lonely sea serpent. Further news. I have promised it a bespoke, artisanal lamp in exchange for the continued existence of the sky. You show them the scale, you recount the story the elder told you, and you describe the beautiful, sorrowful grotto. You tell them of the bargain, and the village, buoyed by the miracle of your return, takes it all surprisingly well. Desperation, it turns out, is a fantastic lubricant for accepting insane ideas. Hope, once a forgotten luxury, returns to the village like a flood tide. But it is a fragile, demanding kind of hope. It requires work. You lay out your plan, the vision you shared with Bakunawa, to build a companion, a new star, woven from the materials of the land. It will be a monumental task, a project on a scale that would have been unthinkable even in the time of the 7 moons. The great megalithic structures of the ancient world, like Stonehenge, were built over generations, requiring immense social cohesion and a powerful, shared belief. You have only weeks, maybe months, before Bakunawa's patience or its sorrow overwhelms it. The village, which had been a ghost town of despair, transforms overnight into a workshop of frantic, purposeful creation. The silence is replaced by the sounds of industry. Everyone has a part to play. The village's primary industries have abruptly shifted from fishing and farming to shell polishing and firefly wrangling. It's a bold career pivot for the entire community. The economic outlook is uncertain, but morale, against all odds, is high. The most skilled weavers, led by the elders' quiet instructions, begin the frame. They use strong, supple rattan vines and cured bamboo, weaving a great spherical skeleton that grows larger day by day. It is like watching them build a ship in a bottle, but in reverse, constructing a vast, intricate object on the outside that is destined for the impossible bottle of the deep sea. Soon the frame is taller than the highest hut, a beautiful, complex lattice against the sky. Another group is tasked with the shells. Thousands upon thousands of them. They polish abalone, mother of pearl, and cowrie shells until they gleam with an iridescent fire, each one a tiny, captured rainbow. The soft, rhythmic shik-shik of sand and water on shell becomes a constant, meditative sound in the village. Perhaps the most delicate task falls to the children. Every evening at dusk, they go to the edge of the mangrove forest, where the air grows thick with the soft green-gold light of fireflies. They do not hunt them or snatch them from the air. Instead, they sing soft, gentle songs and hold out clay jars with wide mouths, their insides coated with sweet nectar. The fireflies, attracted by the sweetness and the song, crawl inside, and the children carefully place perforated leaf lids over the tops. It is a slow, patient, and respectful harvest of living light. You are at the center of it all. The planner, the leader, the project manager for a task you never could have imagined. You are essentially overseeing the construction of a giant, artisanal disco ball for a very emotionally needy sea monster. Your leadership skills are being tested in ways that are, to put it mildly, unprecedented. You are witnessing the birth of what the sociologist Emil Durkheim would call collective effervescence, the palpable shared energy that binds a community together in a common sacred purpose. Sociologists will one day debate if this is a mere psychological trick or a higher form of social consciousness. You watching a child gently coax a point of light into a jar, have no doubt that it is something sacred. The work continues, day and night, under the single watchful eye of the mother moon. The great sphere is nearly complete. The piles of polished shells glitter like a pirate's treasure. The collection of clay jars, now numbering in the hundreds, pulse with a soft, coordinated glow. Your people are no longer waiting for their world to end. They are far too busy building a new piece of it. The great woven sphere is nearly finished. Day by day, it has grown from a skeletal frame into a solid, beautiful object. The weavers have worked their magic, and thousands of polished iridescent shells have been painstakingly tied into the rattan lattice, creating a shimmering mosaic skin. It rests in the center of the village, a testament to your people's desperate, brilliant hope. It is a magnificent achievement. But as you look at it, a quiet unease settles in you. It is beautiful, but it is silent. You think of Bakunawa. Your first awareness of it was a vibration. Your first real clue to its nature was a sound, a song of profound sorrow. It communicates not with words, but with resonance, with melody. To offer it a silent gift, however beautiful, feels incomplete, like answering a heartfelt letter with a pretty but blank piece of paper. You take this feeling to the shaman and the old Lola Apo. They listen, and they understand. The gift must have a voice. And so, a new project begins, running in parallel to the last of the weaving. The village musicians are summoned. The creative brief is a challenging one. Please compose a nonverbal, cross-species apology lullaby that conveys both profound empathy for cosmic loneliness and a sincere promise of future friendship. No pressure, though. This lullaby has to be good enough to prevent the apocalypse, which is significantly more at stake than just trying to get a baby to fall asleep. Although the baby in this case is a planet-sized sea serpent, the instruments are chosen without debate. Conch shells, the great spiraled shells that have been the trumpets and horns of your people for generations. Their sound is the sound of the ocean itself, deep, resonant, and carrying for miles over the water. A group of the strongest lunged villagers gather on the beach, their cherished shells polished and ready. They begin by trying to replicate the song they now hear every night from the deep. The first few attempts are not great. The sound they produce is less a soothing melody and more like a herd of very sad, very large sea cows getting stuck in the mud. There's a bit of a learning curve. They struggle to match the impossible infrasonic depth of Bakunawa's lament. The lowest notes a human can typically hear are around 20 hertz. Bakunawa-esque grief likely resonates at a frequency so low it is felt more than it is heard. The conch shells are their only hope of translating that feeling into a sound they can actually produce. The breakthrough comes from the old Lola Apo. As the musicians struggle, she begins to hum, her voice thin and reedy. It is a simple ancient lullaby, a melody passed down through countless generations, a tune used to soothe fretful children in the dead of night. The melody is simple, gentle, and circles around just a few comforting notes. That's the answer, you realize. You are not trying to compose a grand, thundering symphony to match Bakunawa's scale. You are composing a lullaby to soothe its heart. The musicians change their approach. They take the core, mournful note of Bakunawa's own song as their foundation, a low, sustained tone that says, "We hear you." Then, around that single, lonely note, they begin to weave the simple, gentle harmony of the lullaby. Other shells join in, not to overpower the sad note, but to support it, to harmonize with it. The song they create is something entirely new. It is a melody that acknowledges the pain, that sits with the sorrow, but also offers a gentle, rocking rhythm of comfort, a promise that the lonely note does not have to be sung alone. The oldest surviving piece of complete written music in the world, the Sikilos epitaph from ancient Greece, carries a message of cheerful, determined joy in the face of a short life. The song your people compose is its spiritual opposite, a melody of gentle, determined empathy in the face of an eternal, lonely one. Every evening as the last moon begins its climb, the practice begins. A choir of conch shells now sings from the shore. The village learns the song, even those who aren't playing. It becomes the anthem of your work, the rhythm of the weaver's hands and the shell polisher's steady labor. Neuroscientists and music therapists will one day debate the precise neurological mechanisms by which a simple sequence of sound waves can regulate human emotion, creating feelings of comfort and hope out of thin air. Your village, without understanding the science, is staking its entire existence on that magical, mysterious phenomenon. The song is perfected. It is ready. The physical gift, the woven sphere of shells, now has an auditory soul. As you stand on the beach and listen to the final rehearsal, the beautiful, haunting melody washing over you, you feel that your promise to Bakunawa is finally taking on a form that it might be able to understand. The work is done. The last shell has been tied, the last vine has been woven. The great shimmering sphere, your village's impossible promise, rests on the beach, ready. Hundreds of clay jars filled with the soft, pulsing light of fireflies have been carefully placed within its core, turning it into a great breathing lantern. The conch choir has perfected its ocean lullaby. A fragile, exhausted, but triumphant sense of hope settles over your people. You have done it. You have built a star. But the abyss is not known for its patience. Apparently, eons of solitude do not make you a very patient customer. Just as the last of the firefly jars are being secured, the song from the deep returns. It is not the sorrowful lament you have grown used to. It is laced with a raw, desperate edge, a sound of unbearable tension. It is the sound of a being at war with itself, its ancient instinctual need battling against a new and fragile trust. Then, the ground begins to tremble. It is the slow, deep, rhythmic pulse of ascent. Thump, thump, thump. Each vibration is a footstep on the staircase of the sea. Bakunawa is rising. The hopeful energy in the village evaporates in an instant, replaced by a cold wave of terror. The villagers' morale, which has been so high, suddenly plummets. A cry of alarm goes up. It's coming back. The bargain is broken. People drop what they are doing, their faces turning to the sea with expressions of utter betrayal. Trust, it turns out, has a much shorter half-life when the ground is shaking and the apocalypse you just averted seems to be back on the schedule. You have to act. You climb onto the side of the great woven sphere, using the lattice as a ladder so that everyone can see you. You raise your hands for silence. It is not breaking the promise. You shout, your voice ringing with a conviction you pray you actually feel. Its pain is too great. It has waited for an eternity. It cannot wait another night. It is not coming to attack. It is coming for its gift. It is coming to see if our hope is real. You are asking them to have faith in your untested strategy, a faith as brave and as desperate as that of the dam-buster pilots of World War II, who flew their planes into the heart of danger, trusting in a strange, unproven weapon to save their world. Your weapon is a song and a ball of glitter. Psychologists will one day debate the subjective nature of time, how it seems to expand and contract based on our emotional state. For your village, the weeks of hopeful labor now feel like a dream that lasted only a moment, while these few seconds of the Serpent's approach stretch into a terrifying eternity. Your words, and the desperate truth in them, manage to cut through the rising panic. They look at you, then at the great beautiful thing they have all built together, and their fear solidifies back into frantic purpose. The final rush begins. Teams of villagers carefully place the last jars of fireflies inside the sphere. The musicians scramble to their positions at the water's edge, their conch shells raised. You are hoping for a miracle of interspecies communication, a reverse of the clever Hans effect. That was a horse that seemed to do mathematics but was actually just responding to the unconscious cues of his trainer. You are hoping that your very conscious and deliberate cues, your music, your gift, can be understood by a being whose mind is as alien as the deep sea itself. The signs of ascent are now undeniable. Far out on the horizon, the flat line of the sea begins to bulge upwards, a great smooth dome of black water being pushed from below. The single mother moon has reached her zenith, hanging directly above, a perfect solitary pearl on the velvet cloth of the night. The Serpent is rising. The moon is in position. This is the ultimate deadline. You feel like a student who has to finish their final, world-saving thesis paper while the professor is actively walking across the stage to announce that they have failed. You slide down from the sphere and take your place at the head of the musicians. Everything is ready. The gift of light sits on the shore, pulsing softly. The gift of sound is held in the lungs of your people, waiting for your signal. You look out at the rising dome of water, then up at the last vulnerable moon. The final act of your world's story has begun, and there is no more time for rehearsal. The great dome of water breaks. With a sound not of a roar but of 1,000 waterfalls, Bakunawa's head rises from the sea. Seawater glowing in the single moon's light, cascades from its colossal form. It is every bit as vast and as terrifying as you remember, a living island of muscle and ancient sorrow. It has the kind of overwhelming presence that makes you want to immediately and sincerely apologize for existing. Your plan is to greet this apocalyptic being with a gentle song. This feels a bit like trying to calm a volcano with a ukulele. Its eyes, each a swirling galaxy of grief, are not looking at you. They are fixed on the mother moon hanging overhead, a look of desperate, single-minded need. Its great body tenses, its long neck beginning to arch upwards for the final, world-ending strike. The villagers behind you let out a collective, terrified gasp. This is the moment. All of the hope, all of the work. It all comes down to this. You take a deep, shuddering breath, raise your hand, and bring it down. The first note of the ocean's lullaby, played on a choir of conch shells, cuts through the night. It is a sound so small and fragile against the immense presence of the Serpent that it seems absurd. For centuries, armies have used the clamor of war, the thunder of drums, the blast of trumpets, the scream of bagpipes, to signal attack and intimidate their foes. Your village is inverting that tradition completely. This is not a clamor of war. It is a clamor of creation, a sound meant not to threaten, but to welcome. Bakunawa freezes. Its colossal head, already angled toward the sky, stops moving. The inexorable, world-ending ascent simply pauses. Its huge, luminous eye swivels, its gaze slowly, ponderously, dropping from the moon. Its head turns, an impossibly slow and majestic movement, until it is facing the shore. It is facing you. It appears that in its eons of lonely existence, no one has ever tried singing to it before. It's a massive oversight in celestial security, really. You can feel its confusion washing over the water, a palpable wave of surprise. It was rising to meet a silent, indifferent sky, and instead, it has been met with a response, with a voice. Emboldened by its hesitation, the musicians play louder, their confidence surging. The melody of the lullaby swells, the harmony deepening, the sound rolling across the water not as a plea but as a statement. A rhythmic, hopeful music that says, "We are here. We see you. We hear you." Your village's new defense strategy is aggressive soothing. It's unconventional, but so far, it has a better track record than both the sacrificial offerings and the strategic inaction strategies combined. The early data is very promising. Scientists and philosophers will one day debate the challenges of interspecies communication, wondering if a common language could be found in the cold logic of mathematics or in simple pictograms. Your village is placing its bet on the universal language of music and empathy. While the conch choir plays, the rest of the village is making its own kind of music. It is the sound of dozens of people moving as one, their soft calls to each other as they position themselves around the great woven sphere. The rustle and creak of its frame, the soft clinking of the thousands of shells that adorn it. It is the sound of a promise being prepared for delivery. The urban legend of the brown note, a hypothetical frequency that can cause involuntary bodily reactions, speaks to our belief that sound can have a direct physical effect. The sound your village is making is aimed higher, a collection of frequencies intended to have a direct, transformative effect on a lonely heart. Bakunawa's head is tilted now, in a gesture of unmistakable curiosity. It is listening. The last moon, the prize it rose from the deep to claim, is, for the moment, completely forgotten. The lullaby has done its work. It has built a fragile, vibrating bridge of sound across the dark water, a connection between the small, warm voices of your people and the vast, silent heart of the serpent. You have its full, undivided attention. The first, most terrifying step of the plan has worked. Now you have to present your gift. The bridge of music holds. Bakunawa waits, its vast head lowered, listening, its attention captured. This is your cue. You turn to the shore and give a sharp single nod. It is the signal for the second act. The villagers, moving with a quiet, desperate efficiency, surge forward as one. They put their shoulders to the great woven sphere, and with a collective groan of effort, they begin to roll the massive, shimmering object down the sandy beach and into the gentle surf. It hits the water with a soft splash, and for one heart-stopping moment it lists heavily. Then, its natural buoyancy takes over, and it floats, bobbing gently on the waves, a new man-made island of soft, living light. The fireflies within its core, jostled by the movement, begin to pulse in a faster, more excited rhythm. Your task is now to act as the delivery service. You climb into your own small, glowing canoe and paddle out to the floating sphere. This feels like the most stressful parade float delivery in history. You're just praying you don't scratch the paint job. You position your canoe in front of the gift and begin the slow, painstaking process of guiding it out across the dark water, away from the shore and toward the waiting Leviathan. The conch choir on the beach never falters. Their lullaby is the soundtrack to your strange, sacred procession. Behind you is the hope of your people. Before you is the sorrow of an ancient god. And in between, you are pushing a handcrafted star made of sticks, shells, and insects. After the Second World War, a great nation would offer a gift called the Marshall Plan, a massive aid package to rebuild the continent it had just fought against, believing that creating a shared peace was better than demanding retribution. Your gift is a far stranger and more cosmic version of this idea, an offering of beauty designed to rebuild a broken world. Bakunawa watches your slow approach. It remains perfectly still, a mountain of silent patience in the sea. Its eyes follow the glowing sphere, and you can feel its immense, ancient curiosity. You finally arrive before it, your small boat and the floating gift utterly dwarfed by the scale of its head. The water churns softly from its slow, deep breathing. This is it. You stop paddling and place a hand on the warm scale at your waist, gathering your thoughts for the final, most important message of all. You project the meaning of the gift. Through the silent language of feeling, you're basically saying, "We made this for you. It is a light from our world, the world that lives under the sky. It is not as bright as your moon sisters, but it is warm and it is alive. It is a promise that you are no longer alone. We see you. We know your sorrow. Please accept this gift made by our hands in exchange for the safety of our last light. Best regards, humanity." It's a lot to convey telepathically. Anthropologists like Marcel Mauss will one day argue that gifts are never truly free. They are a fundamental part of human society, creating powerful bonds and mutual obligations. Your gift is the ultimate test of that theory, an offering explicitly designed to forge a new and binding relationship between your world and the one below. Unlike the strange cargo cults that would appear in your part of the world centuries later, groups who would build mock airstrips in the hope of summoning magical goods from the sky, you're not asking for a gift from a higher power. You are giving one. A low, deep hum, a sound of pure, dawning wonder resonates from Bakunawa's chest. It understands. Slowly, so slowly it barely seems to move, it lowers its colossal head toward the floating sphere. You hold your breath. It does not open its jaws. Instead, it gently, delicately nudges the woven star with the tip of its snout. It is a touch as soft as a whisper, an act of profound and careful curiosity. It is the same gesture a small house cat might use when investigating a new toy. If the house cat were the size of a tectonic plate, and the toy were a masterpiece of artisanal engineering. The scale is different, but the feeling is universal. Then, with a subtle movement of its great body, it creates a soft, steady current in the water, a personal tide that gently draws the glowing sphere away from you and closer to its own body. The offering has been made, and it has been accepted. Bakunawa gently cradles the woven star with its currents, its colossal head bowed over the pulsing, living light. The conch shell lullaby drifts across the water from the shore, a soft, persistent melody of comfort. For a long, silent moment, the great serpent is utterly mesmerized. It nudges the sphere again, a touch of impossible delicacy, seeming to watch the fireflies within swirl and dance. You can feel a profound and monumental shift happening within its ancient consciousness. The eons of solitude had created a heart with only one string, which played only one note: sorrow. The gift, and the song that came with it, has just added another string. It's like a computer that has only ever run a single program called Be Lonely. XE suddenly receiving a massive, unexpected software update called Friendship 1.0. It's causing a total system reboot. A deep tremor runs through Bakunawa's body, and you instinctively flinch, but this is not a tremor of aggression. It is a shudder of pure, overwhelming emotion. In the ancient Greek theory of drama, the philosopher Aristotle wrote of catharsis, the great purging of pity and fear that an audience feels at the climax of a tragedy. What you are witnessing now is a catharsis on a cosmic scale. A great, shuddering breath heaves the serpent's chest. It lifts its head, and from its throat comes a long, low sound. It is a sigh, an exhale that carries the weight of 1,000,000 years of solitude. With that great exhale, its mouth opens just slightly, and from it, gently, one by one, 6 shimmering spheres of light emerge. They are not thrown or spat out. They are released as if a hand is uncurling its fingers. With a soft sigh, the serpent gently coughs up 6 pristine, fully functional moons. It is the most majestic and cosmically significant act of regurgitation in the history of the universe. You are just very, very glad you are not in the splash zone. They float on the surface of the ocean for a moment, bobbing like the most sacred and luminous buoys imaginable. The Lavender Sister, the Scarred Warrior, the Weeping Gold, the Darting Wanderer, and the Brilliant Twins. 6 lost lights return to the world, their combined glow turning the dark sea around your canoe into a pool of liquid silver. Then, they begin to rise. Slowly at first, as if waking from a long dream, they lift from the water's surface. They ascend, trailing faint streams of light, gaining speed as they climb higher and higher into the night sky, a reverse meteor shower, a miracle in rewind. The Greek term for a gradual recovery is lysis, the opposite of a sudden crisis. You are watching the lysis of the sky, its slow, graceful healing. From the shore, your people see it. First, the 6 points of light appearing on the dark ocean. A moment of stunned, breathless silence grips the village. Then, as the lights begin to lift into the air, the silence is shattered by a single joyous scream, which is immediately multiplied by 100 other voices. An explosion of pure, unadulterated joy erupts on the beach. People are weeping, shouting, laughing, embracing strangers. The conch choir falters for a moment in sheer shock, and then the lullaby returns transformed. It is no longer a gentle, soothing melody. It is a triumphant, soaring fanfare. It sounds a bit like a wedding for a royal family of very happy walruses, but the spirit is undeniable. Physicists and philosophers will one day debate the nature of emergent properties, complex systems that arise from the interaction of simpler parts, exhibiting qualities that the parts alone do not possess. The restored sky, the serpent's relief, the village's joy, this perfect, harmonious moment of peace is an emergent property. It has arisen from the simple, humble components of a woven basket, a handful of insects, and a sad little song. You sit in your canoe, a solitary witness at the very epicenter of the miracle. You watch the 6 moons climb, finding their way back to their old familiar paths in the sky. Below you, Bakunawa is quiet, its great, shuddering sigh having subsided into a deep, peaceful calm. Its attention is no longer on the rising moons but on its new companion, the woven star, which pulses with its soft, warm light upon the water. The bargain has been kept. The promise has been fulfilled. The sky is healing, and your world, which was on the very brink of eternal darkness, has been saved. Not by a warrior's spear or a shaman's demand, but by a simple gift and a song. You watch, your heart swelling with a triumphant relief that feels as vast as the ocean itself, as the 6 freed moons ascend. On the shore, the joyous clamor of your people is a beautiful, chaotic symphony. Bakunawa is a quiet, still mountain in the sea, its great head bowed toward the gift your people made. Its long vigil of loneliness finally at an end. For a perfect shining moment, you believe you have done it. You have restored the world to the way it was. But the past is not a thing that can be so easily mended. The moons, you realize, were not just taken. They were changed. Their time in the deep, held in a stasis of pure, sorrowful emotion, has made them fragile. As the shy lavender moon climbs highest, it begins to shimmer, its edges blurring. Then with a silent, graceful sigh, it comes apart. It does not explode. It dissolves. Like a sphere of spun sugar in water breaking into 1,000 tiny, drifting points of lavender light. For a moment they hang in the air like a cloud of glowing dust, and then they freeze, becoming a permanent soft nebula in the sky. The good news: the moons are no longer inside the sea serpent. The bad news: their structural integrity was apparently well past its warranty date. They seem to have been recalled by the manufacturer in a rather dramatic fashion. One by one, the others follow. The scarred warrior moon shatters into a spray of brilliant, hard-edged points of light. A celestial splash that forms a shape vaguely like a great crab scuttling across the heavens. The golden moon weeps itself into a long, river-like streak of pale gold dust. The wanderer breaks into a scattered handful of lights that seem to twinkle with a restless energy. And the twins, together as always, burst into a dense, brilliant cluster, a cloud of shattered diamonds in the deep black. On the shore, the cheering of your village falters, then dies out completely, replaced by a collective, awestruck gasp. The triumphant music of the conch shells softens, becoming a quiet, questioning hum. They are not witnessing a restoration. They are witnessing a transformation. The Great Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, caused by a massive asteroid impact, was an event of unimaginable destruction, wiping out the dinosaurs and ending an entire geological era. But from that destruction, a new world was born, one that allowed for the rise of mammals and eventually humanity. You are watching a similar moment of destructive creation. The end of the world of the seven moons is giving birth to the world of the stars. You look at the new sky taking shape above you. It is a masterpiece of cosmic kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The philosophy of kintsugi is that the object is more beautiful for having been broken, its history of damage and repair a part of its identity. The sky is no longer perfect, but it is laced with the golden shimmering seams of its own tragic history. You brokered a deal for the safe return of 6 moons, and what you got was 1 moon and a sky full of beautiful glitter. It feels like you've been the victim of some kind of cosmic fine print. Historians and art preservationists will one day debate the ethics of restoration. Is the goal to erase the damage and return an object to its pristine original state? Or is it to stabilize the object, acknowledging the scars of its journey through time? The universe, it seems, has chosen the latter. You cannot go back. The old sky is gone forever. You feel a low, resonant hum from Bakunawa. It is a complex sound, a chord of sorrow for the final loss of its moon sisters, but also of peace, of quiet wonder at the new and beautiful thing their loss has created. Its attention is fully on the woven star now, its true companion, a light that will not shatter. The last of the fragments settles into place. The spectacle is over. You float in your small canoe under a completely new heavens. There is one great, solitary mother moon, and a vast, silent, and breathtakingly beautiful tapestry of unmoving, shattered light. The villagers on the shore are already pointing, their voices low and hushed, tracing new shapes in the sky, trying to find a new language for their new world. Inventing constellations is going to be the new village pastime. It's better than panicking anyway. The old world is gone. A new one with a single moon and a sky of unforgettable scars has just been born. The new sky settles, a silent, glittering testament to the night's events. Bakunawa, a quiet mountain of a creature, floats peacefully, its attention wholly captivated by the pulsing, living light of the woven star, its new and only companion. The age of its great cosmic sorrow is over. Its journey is done. So is yours. It lifts its colossal head one last time and looks at you. There are no more visions, no more shared thoughts, but its gaze is clear. It is a look of profound, soul-deep gratitude, an acknowledgement of the impossible bridge you have built between your two worlds. Then, with a final, gentle nudge to its new friend, Bakunawa turns. It takes the woven star with it, creating a soft, proprietary current that keeps the glowing sphere close to its side as it begins its descent. It sinks back into the black water, not like a monster retreating to its lair, but like a king returning to his silent, peaceful kingdom. It's the most dramatic and graceful exit you've ever seen. You feel like you should have at least gotten a receipt for the gift. The great Viking age of history didn't end in a single climactic battle. It simply faded as its people settled, assimilated, and their raiding culture gave way to a more stable existence. So too does the age of Bakunawa, the World Eater, end. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, majestic descent, its threat fading into a new role. The silent, unseen guardian of the deep, forever cradling the light your people gave it. You turn your small, moon-painted canoe and begin to paddle back to the shore. The journey is short, but it feels like you are crossing an ocean of time, returning from an ancient mythological age into a new one. Your people meet you at the water's edge. The boisterous celebration has subsided, replaced by a deep and reverent awe. They don't hoist you on their shoulders or sing songs of your victory. They simply part a path for you, their eyes filled with a gratitude that is too profound for words. The chief bows his head. The shaman, his face streaked with tears of relief, does the same. You are a hero now. It's a definite improvement over being the village eccentric, though the responsibilities, namely, being the sole expert on cosmic Leviathan relations, are a bit more demanding. In the days and weeks that follow, Your world finds its new rhythm. Fishermen learn the simpler, gentler tides of the single moon. Young sailors who once navigated by the seven moving sisters now learn to read the fixed, intricate maps of the shattered stars. The world is quieter, more melancholy perhaps, but it is stable. It is safe. You've had your own wow signal moment, that one-time inexplicable message from the universe. And unlike the scientists who would one day capture a fleeting radio signal from the stars, you gotta have a full conversation. You become the keeper of the story. On clear nights you sit with the children of the village, the children who will only ever know this sky, and you point out the new constellations. You give them names. The bright cluster of the twin moons becomes the sister's basket. The sharp, angry-looking spray of the warrior moon becomes the great crab. But a memory, a beautiful scar that tells the story of a lonely heart that was soothed not by magic, but by a simple act of understanding and kindness. Geologists will one day propose a new epoch called the Anthropocene to mark the era of humanity's impact on the planet. For your people, this new age will forever be the Bakunawa age, a time defined by the moment the sky itself was reshaped by your journey. So, the world is saved. There is only one moon, the sky is filled with the beautiful shattered remnants of the others, and the tides are much less complicated. All in all, it's a pretty significant improvement over imminent total annihilation. You'd call that a win. Life continues forever changed under a sky of shattered light. And so your journey too is over. The great serpent is quiet now, deep in its abyssal home, cradling the warm, living light that was made from the hands and the hopes of a small village. The serpent is no longer lonely, and the sky, while forever changed, is now a place of serene and gentle beauty, a quiet ceiling of a single soft moon and a million glittering silent stars. The world is at peace, a new balance found not through a great and terrible battle, but through a song and a gift. The fear has faded, the danger has passed, and all that is left is the soft, steady rhythm of a quiet sea lapping against a peaceful shore. The lights of the village have all gone out now, as the people sleep soundly, safely, under their new canopy of light. Everything is calm, everything is quiet, and you can let go now, feeling the gentle pull of your own tide, the tide of sleep, pulling you down into your own soft, quiet darkness. The story is finished. It is time to rest.